Hello, guys. Hi, Christian. And my son. All the boxes over here. Come on in, everyone. Say hi. I need to start talking since the very beginning. Sometimes I wait until people come in before I start talking, and then the recording, YouTube has not been putting closed captions underneath it because it needs to detect audio in the beginning of the video. So now you'll hear me saying hi since the moment I start, just so that there's some audio there for YouTube to pick up and do the automatic captions, which are required. If I'm going to put some school material up, it should be accessible and available to anyone, and so it needs closed captions. But I can't imagine typing out everything I said in the 4-hour class if YouTube doesn't do its automatic thing. So yeah, so I'm like talking and hoping that it's enough for the automatic audio YouTube captions to get going. Has anyone been viewing the videos? If you've missed class or you've had to review something? I know that Vera, you mentioned how much you need to practice.
Do it every day in order to remember, because there's such a vast amount of learning to happen, because there's something behind every little arrow.
Well, it was interesting when you said that because, well, first of all, I really appreciate that you're trying so hard and just, making leaps and bounds of progress. So that's really good. But I also don't want you to get discouraged by that. I mean, you have years ahead. Like, imagine that you learn how to paint with watercolor. The first time you dab, you make a perfect flower. That doesn't mean that you've learned everything about watercolors. You can probably keep getting better for years, right? Same with any tool or art. I mean, some things, once you learn how to ride a bike, you kind of know how to ride a bike, right? And then you can get better at it. Or
my other discovery,
Olympics.
You in another class, you told us about the LinkedIn option. There is a vast amount of courses that I didn't know were there, and Illustrator is one of them. And it's you can't stop those videos to ask questions. And
well, please let me go ahead, and since you mentioned that, let me share that. But you guys, because you have access to the school pipeline account, the same place where you go get the class handouts and the class files, and from right there, right under where it says Google, you can also get a link to LinkedIn, which is a site that does humongous amounts of tutorials for all kinds of software online, and really good ones. Like Vera said, you can't ask them questions, so that's why it's good to have me here asking you questions, but you can learn so much more. I find that those tutorials are great for people who already know something, and this is what you're doing right now. You're knowing something. Other than that, once you know something, then you can understand what they're talking about and then progress, right? It's really hard to start from scratch, because however much scratch they start at, they kind of make assumptions and go pretty fast. But once you know something, right, which you guys are definitely beginning to know something, then the things aren't so hard to follow. And as long as you start, and follow along, they give you the files that they're working with. Yeah, and it's for free as part of being a student, right? So please take advantage of that. Glad you remembered that, Vera, so that I could point it out here. I sometimes forget to point out all the different things that are available to us in this class. So I'm just sharing for a second awesome work you guys are doing, the fun stuff. So today, for example, Linda is, are you here, Linda, already or not? Oh yeah,
Yep,
there you are.
Back from lunch.
So she's in my Photoshop class, right? And so she made this today, which is I don't know if you did it today, but she posted this a few days ago, which is the robot that she made in class, but she used different colors for each part. So she made this funny, happy little robot. And she put it on top of this flowery birdie image that I used before. Look at the little like dots she made there. So anyway, she made some fun stuff to it. But then today she added it to something they were doing in Photoshop. She put it in a little window that the iPad is searching through. So I thought, I'm glad that you're, blending all of what you're doing and learning. So that's pretty cool. I also really appreciate what we started with Vera saying, I realize I need to practice every day to even scratch the surface of what there is to learn to an Illustrator. Well, let me say, no, not every day, relax. But yeah, I mean, it's huge, right? And if this suddenly becomes a tool that you feel like you can do all your art in,
I
you
didn't
definitely
know.
do it, right? But it's,
Maybe you can explain this because I'm just starting. I notice other people don't have a screenshot. They just have their work. I don't know how to do that. You see,
yeah,
Megan Bird work.
if you do the screenshot instead of the entire page, if you just screenshot only this bit, you would have
Oh,
been
I
able to
see.
post only your work.
Is that how they did it?
That said,
Okay.
you could, and to me, posting your work and your files shows me the stuff that you're doing. So that's actually totally fine with me too, because who knows? I mean, in this case, clearly you guys have made these. It's not one that wasn't made, but sometimes if you just show me your work, I don't know if you just screenshot it or something I'm showing you in class or something like that. If it looks identical to mine, then you could have screenshot my work versus if you screenshot this, I can clearly see that it is actually your work. So it's fine to screenshot it with all of the, I like this, with the layers and the stuff that you're doing and whatnot. And then if you do it in different colors and stuff, I know for sure it's yours and not mine. So yeah, it's fine to screenshot whatever you want. And then Christian here, I like also that you can tell she's kind of in the industry because she didn't just post this here and nothing. She did the correct thing, which notice what she wrote. She actually gave attribution to where these photos are from. It's not complete attribution and that we don't know who the photographer actually was or who the artist actually was who did it, but at least it tells you where it came from, which is a good beginning towards attribution, right? Because she's saying Yoda, Disney images, Galaxy images for the background, copyright Lucasfilm, stuff like that, which remember when you're doing all of these composites and stuff, and it's important that down here it has a little bit of a copyright on the bottom of this one, but you can't do that on the Yoda image. So just remember that you have to give attribution. You can't just outright steal stuff and call it your art. Like
I didn't know how to do that, Diana. How do you? I wanted to do the orchard with the robot on top, but I didn't know how to overlay both of them.
She just copied the robot. So you would just copy the robot that you made here, all the pieces together, and then you open the other file and paste it on top.
Yeah. Okay.
It's in this case, it's as simple as that. Yeah.
Okay.
Because we have both files. She then created a bit more. She made these little, spots and stuff like that. That said, it is a little bit hard. We recognize a robot because we know where it's from, but she put it on such a busy background that it's really hard to distinguish the robot. So if we didn't know the robot, we might go, I don't know how successful this is. It's blended. If we don't know the images that we've worked with, we look at this image and you do not see a robot, right? So it's a good practice for us because we know what we're doing here, but this wouldn't be a successful background for an image that is correctly done in the sense that she made it transparency. She did the compound and she added a cute little bow here, but it's all done with the compound objects that I taught you, meaning they're transparent. And so that it's hard to see the shapes because you see the birds through them. Had it been done solidly, so to say, without transparency, then I wouldn't know. But she's showing me that she did the work. And this one's also showing me that they did the work because you can see the image behind, little robot sitting on top of the cute, tiny little rabbit there. But you can see that there's transparency versus these, nothing against what you did, but I have no idea if you did transparency or not. This could just be a red belly on top of the robot, right? So this could be completely done without compound images. So if you had a chance to put your robot on top of something, then you'd be able to see that solution better. I'm going to delete this post only because it was in the incorrect class. So anyone who isn't showing me transparency, I'm not sure if it was done correctly or not. I'm going to assume that this belly is transparent. No, I can tell it's transparent because I see a little bit of the dots. I was going to say, I'm going to assume because I see them here, but actually I see them here too. So I'm going to assume, I'm going to make the assumption, which is a pretty correct assumption, that this one is done correctly with transparency, but I can't tell on this one if it was done with transparency, for example, right? So anyway, showing me more is not necessarily bad, Vera, because then I can see more of the work that you've done. Anyway, good job everyone for all the different versions of robots and birds and fun stuff. And Hirsch, Mason didn't put it on top of the birds. She just put her two little robots there, but I can see that all the transparency is happening because you see the perfect yellow behind it, okay? So anyway, yay to all the robots and other critters that we're filling our life with. Today we're gonna move on to something a little bit different. I'm actually gonna stop my share and move on to, I had this open, but I'm gonna hide that. Oh, I was showing that, let me show this. I was showing this to because I just finished my Photoshop class, and I just want to say that in summer 2, I am teaching some more classes, but so this is what I'm teaching in summer 2. I'm teaching all the intro to Mac classes, living the iLife, which is how to use your Macs or Apple photos and videos. So the iMovie application, both on the computer and on your phone. And I just got donated, someone donated an iPad to me that I've never been able to show things on iPad. Who is it? Where are you? Oh, she's not here right now. Sam isn't here right now, but she's always using the iPad on the Illustrator. And I'm like, I can't help you with that, but I'm going to open up Illustrator on the iPad now and see if I can figure it out to help you with that one too. Anyway, so I'm teaching all the Mac classes, but I'm also teaching another version of Photoshop and supposedly another version of Illustrator. But there's a problem here with this Illustrator that they scheduled it at exactly the same time as my intro to the Mac class. So they've overscheduled it. And so now they're trying to figure out how they're going to do that. So don't trust that this is the correct timing for the Illustrator. They're even talking about canceling it. I was like, no, no, no. As long as I tell my people will register. But I've only got 8 people, and so they might cancel it. So if you're interested in taking it, please sign up for it. And here, this is the CRN for the summer 2 Illustrator CRN there, and the CRN for the Photoshop class, which I'm specifying here in case some of you guys want to take that. If you want to be in the arts in general, you need to know both. Or any of the Mac classes, I'll let you come here to the summer 2 and find them. But this is called Living the iLife, which is bizarre, is the photos and iMovie apps for the Mac phones, which are amazing, which if you don't want to go deep dive into Photoshop, you can use those, and they do a really good job of editing, but also categorizing and cataloging your images. Now, this is going to be Monday, Wednesday in the morning is the Photoshop class, and this is supposedly was going to be Monday, Wednesday afternoon, but then we saw this overlap. So if they see only 8 people, they might just cancel it, which would be sad for me and for everyone. I'm going to send an email to remind everyone that they need to sign up to all these classes. But if we get more, they won't dare cancel it. They'll just reschedule it, and then I'll tell you what to schedule it. And if it works or doesn't work for you, you can then cancel or not and not take it. But at least if you can sign up, they might think twice about not canceling it. Yeah, I didn't catch that mistake, and they didn't either. And here we are. Next week is our final class of the semester. So the following week, these start. Okay. So again, it's not that you need to take more classes to learn the basics, but you might know that a lot of people who take these classes again You just hear it from a different level. You might see the same stuff, but then you incorporate new stuff, or you ask me a more advanced question, I help you. So it's not like you stay learning the same thing all at the same time. Plus I use different images, different examples, and every time you'll learn a different aspect of something similar, right? So anyway, enough said. Let's go to Bridge and to our Illustrator class files. Today we're going to start with different part of what you can do in Illustrator, which again is going to focus more on modification of an existing element. So what we're talking about is text. It's very typical to do logos. Last week, I said that we were going to be doing a little bit of live trade. Who is here in my digital design techniques class? I took my class on Thursday. Any of you guys?
I did.
You did, Christian.
Yeah.
Who else?
Mesan.
Mesan. Okay. So we started doing a little bit of image tracing in that class. Okay. So you guys have a bit of an idea of what's coming up with that. And some of you guys have done some of this before, but the idea is that you can bring in an image that's not a vector file and vectorize it, which is what image trace does, meaning turning it into objects and paths and lines and allowing you to then manipulate it from inside of Illustrator. And this is pretty key at any size. So it becomes completely and absolutely scalable. To do that, so those of you who understand Photoshop and have been to Photoshop, you know that that is a headache in Photoshop, and that's a headache per se. It's you need to learn and do it. Samantha, I'm adding your last name. I don't know how many times we've done it or not, but I need it for sometimes I stop paying attention, but I need it for the roster to have the last name. So then if we get audited, the state sees that it wasn't just Samantha, it was actually Samantha Benavia, because that's how I take the attendance. Most importantly, when you have two people with the same name, then it becomes a problem. Anyway, sorry, I segued into the last name thing and I lost track. I was saying that when you have images in Photoshop, you will have photographs that the camera took, or you could have scanned something in, for example, a drawing, or you could have photographed a drawing. All of those things I'm talking about end up being raster images, meaning pixelated images that work for Photoshop. And we talked a lot about this in the digital design techniques class. Here in Illustrator, I don't need to talk about that so much, but just so you know, that's the big difference. All these raster images, you can't modify them or alter them in Illustrator. So if you want to, what you can do is you can convert them, you can vectorize them, you can, sometimes they're called digitize, although all of these are digital images, the raster and the vectorized. And we do that with a tool called Image Trace. So last week, I asked for some sketches. Sam sent me a sketch that she made of her dog. And do I have the ones before? So she sent me a sketch. I don't know if I have the original one that you sent me. Let me get to the original one that you sent me. It'll be somewhere here in the downloads. Do you know what the file was that you called it, Sam?
Are you talking to me, Samantha Baldovia? I didn't do the dog. There is someone who did send you a dog.
Oh, was it Liz?
I actually sent something totally different. So that's not me. But I can send you a photo if you want.
No, that's okay. was it Liz, are you here? Well, anyway, I'm just trying to show the photo that she sent. I don't know where the photo, maybe I didn't download the photo she sent me. Let me just go quickly here to, did she post it here? Yeah. So it was Liz then, I'm sorry. So she posted this photo. Okay. And then I said, oh, well, this could be something we could scan, trace and digitize. But there is one problem with this photo. If you want to turn it into something like a logo or something like that. Like maybe I won't talk too much about this because Liz isn't here. For a moment, I saw you come in, Sam, and I thought, oh, she's here. Here's the thing. And let me just quickly say what the issue is for turning it into a, well, maybe someone, how about you guys tell me? I haven't taught much about what a logo is, but if anything you know about logos off the top of your head, if you look at this, is there anything here that makes it be a good or a bad logo? Beyond that, it's still a pencil sketch and we need to digitize it and all that. But is there anything there that you guys can tell me about why this might be a good or bad logo? Based on what you already know, because I haven't spoken about it much.
Well, I would say that it's like there are too many lines going on and it's too complicated an image.
Yeah,
To
that's it. That's it succinctly. There's nothing wrong. It's a cute as pie little dog.
Yeah.
Great sketch. So this isn't about the sketch. It's just a good painting, a good art piece does not make a good logo, right? So if you're going to make something like this into a logo, you need to really simplify it. Simplify. So exactly what she said, it's too complicated, too many lines. And so basically less lines, simplify, figure out how to do this in a way that is not very detailed. The first thing I did when I brought it in is I put it in Photoshop and I tried to get rid as much as possible of all of the ambiguous lines. It's just a first step, but here, let me just share right there. So see how I got rid of all the extra stuff that's around it, or a lot of it, I just did it in 2 seconds. And then when I discover that after you do that, well, it becomes a bit flatter, right? Because that's the whole point of all those lines. So then you have to start questioning, well, is there a way to define an eye without all of these little lines? Then you might need to be more stark with your lines. So a lot of digitizing isn't just tracing it in, but it's actually then kind of redrawing it over it, right? To create with these basic lines, a simplified line. And then if you look over here, the dog really isn't kind of finished, which is fine in a pencil sketch because the goal was this. But in a logo, what would happen here? Like it's kind of missing definition. So when you scan something in to bring it into Illustrator, you end up with something like this. You first ideally put it through Photoshop, but if you don't know Photoshop, that's fine. You can do it through Illustrator, but ideally put it through Photoshop first. Try to get rid, just really add contrast. So remember, let me share again. I think I can share both if I have them both on the same screen. Let me give it a try to share both at the same time. Yeah, I need to have them both on the same monitor. So let me bring this one to the other monitor because I got them on 2 different monitors. Let me try now. Okay, so now they're together. So here's one and here's the other. So it's basically the same image, right? But by losing a lot of those lines, you're beginning to lose a little bit of the flavor that it used to have on the one hand. But on the other hand, you also begin to distinguish the things that are missing. So it's not a bad idea to do that. And then the kind of tracing you would have to do with this kind of image will probably be different than that digital art trace that Illustrator can do. You might have to do more of a grab a pencil, an Illustrator pencil, and redraw over it with simple lines. Okay, with this kind of sketch. You can still try to digitize it, but it's not going to be as successful as saying, well, let me grab a pencil and draw over these basic lines and see if I can create a little cute dog pose and maybe have only the face, or if I'm going to add the paws, then maybe have 2 paws and cut off the body right there, something like that. Anyway, this is just, it's so hard to teach in a way. I'm supposed to teach you how to use Illustrator, right? But if I'm going to teach you how to do a logo, I have to talk to you a little bit about logos. It's not like I can give you all, 5 years of design theory behind this, but I can give you a few quick sentences, which come down to, like Christian said, not complicated, simplified, easy, clean lines. So let me share just this one again. And here we go. So anyway, here's my VDI. All right. So what we're going to do is bring in for today. If you guys have anything else you want to send me that might fit a little bit better for scanning, otherwise we'll use one of the images I have. But I want to show you how to first modify images, just what we're going to do next with text, so that when we bring in those logos that are digitized, we can then modify them to clean them up and simplify them. But first we need to learn more about how to modify images. So we are going to start doing that with text. And then when we do some image tracing of real elements into Illustrator, we'll know how to use the tools based on having done them today with text. So there's a couple different files down here that say the word numero uno, right there and right there. Okay. Now, the original file or the original, idea that someone proposed. I'm going to hit the space bar so I can show this one a bit better. Is this idea where you take a word and you mess with the letters a little bit, and that turns it into either a headline for an article or it could be a logo, depending. But basically, you modify the size, the shape, the positioning in some way, because there's all kinds of logos. There's image logos and there's text logo. So we're going to start with the idea that we're going to do a text logo. So in this case, you look at something, you decide that you are interested in it, but guess what? You want to do something just like this, but you don't have this font. And so what we did in classes, we looked for a font that was similar enough, or at least interesting enough that might give us that option. So then we came up with this here. And so this is what we did. So we stopped with the word trying to screen with the word numero and uno, and then you get rid of one of the O's, you expand that O, and then you're left with the U and the M. And in this case, we made the M bigger to go numero. So there's just different ways of combining based on that idea. So now, with that said, with those kind of ideas or this kind of idea, we're going to try to figure out how we modify those letters. And there's a couple of different ways. And then yesterday in Digital Design Techniques, and since only a few of you were there, let me show you really quickly the example that I gave there, which is another idea of text that needs to reread. It was this one where, again, it's the word turn, but it's been modified in such a way that it's been turned, right? And then the T and the U and the R are backwards and forwards. So anyway, a typical way of working with letters. Okay, so that's the kind of thing we're going to work with. Let me go back to Illustrator class files. So we're going to have that kind of as an idea or an inspiration. And we're going to go ahead and I haven't opened Illustrator yet. Interesting. I had Photoshop open and I thought I had opened it, but it hadn't. So let's open Illustrator and let's see what we can do with text. So I thought mine was totally open and I was talking all this time with it open, but it wasn't. So I'm sorry. Let's create a new file. And we're going to learn a little bit about text in Illustrator. Toodaloo. While this is opening, anyone have anything to say?
I'm working on I had my husband send 2 PNGs of our logo. It comes in 2 parts. So for the class assignment from yesterday,
Mm.
I just did an image. I'm working on it right now.
Okay,
So how do
That's
I
great.
send that to you? Or should I
you
just
can,
wait?
you
Yeah.
can email it to me. You can share, you mean to send it to me for me to see it, or just to show it to me?
Well, for you to, I don't know if
Or
you
to
work with it?
work with
Yeah.
it? Sure. I just actually finished my break between Photoshop and Illustrator. Interestingly enough, someone today posted this image that they said, can you do something with it? And I offhand said, sure, you can always do something with it. I gave a break, and next thing you know, I'm like, oh, I told her we could do something with it, and then I never talked about it anymore. So instead of other stuff I can do, I worked with it, and then I came up with, oh, I need to refresh this page. And then oh, here it is. And then I did that to it, which isn't perfect, but you know, it's from there, right, to there. I just played with it a bit. So yeah, I'm happy to use your stuff and try to do my best. But if you also want to post it here to Padlet quickly so
Yeah.
people can see what you're talking about,
Okay.
that'll work.
Okay.
So that we can see what it is that you're talking about.
Okay.
So anyway, back to Illustrator, because basically yesterday in class, for those who aren't in the design techniques class, we worked on that turn word that we scanned it in, and we did different ways of what it would take to scan it. And then we're going to do next week more of the work that we're going to do today here in Illustrator. So let's go to Illustrator and say create new. And maybe let's go to a basic letter format, but turn it sideways so that it's 11 by 8.5. So instead of 8.5 by 11, which is this one here, I'm going to click on this one here. And we're just going to say, okay, create. We don't need to change anything else. Noticing that I don't have the light on today. There we go. Not that it makes much difference, but it gives me a little highlight. Hello. Yesterday, this one took a while to start again too. Let me know if you've emailed it. I will go and check for it. Bring it up. Hello. Create new.
Are we doing that in print or just
There
scan?
it is. In print, yeah. When you choose letter, it automatically knows that it's a size that belongs to print material. So even without having checked print, it kind of will do it in print, which means CMYK and all that. Again, this is stuff that I explained in the design technique class, and that's why she's asking. I haven't talked that much about it here, but yeah, the letter defaults to CMYK mode because it assumes you're going to be printing it. Okay. So here I have my piece of paper. Text, we're going to learn a little bit about text in Illustrator, and then we're going to start with the creating it into a logo. But if you head over to the T or type tool, notice that when you choose the T or type tool over here in properties, we get the basic little word set up. Oh, what I did say, Sam, before you signed in is that someone gave me an iPad. I've never had an iPad, or my kids have it for school, but they have it at school. I've never played it. And someone gave me an iPad so I could teach. And it's so cool because I said, yeah, there's more and more people. In all my Mac classes, people have Macs that they need to know how to connect. And I'm always like, it's similar to the phone. But then I want to open up Illustrator on the iPad and see what it's like and see if I can, make it work now. So it's, I don't know, it's 2017. So I don't know how good or bad that is for Illustrator. I haven't installed it yet, but I'm looking forward to that. So I know, it's very cool. It was a teacher who was leaving the area and had some iPads to donate to other teachers. And I explained, well, I teach at the college and I need to show things and I don't know how. So I got one of them. So cool. So many people were asking for them and I explained mine. I didn't realize it was for Illustrator. It's for my Mac classes, I said, and she gave it to me for that. But then I thought of you and I said, all right. Okay, so now when you grab your type tool, you have two ways of using any of these tools. Like I've showed you before, by the way, when you place something, I believe we place things here in the Illustrator class, you can either place things by a single click or by dragging. I don't know if that applies to people just in the Illustrator class. The Visual Sign Techniques class know what I'm talking about. Let me just show you, if I were to make a basic box, the kind of boxes that we've been making, let me give it a color so you can see it. I'm gonna first make it pink. If I were to click and drag, is which I always make you guys do, we make a box. But if you just click instead, a box comes up and asks you, well, what size do you want to make this box? You tell it, and then you say, okay, and then the box gets made. So the same tool does a different thing. If you click and then you go, yeah, I want it to be 3 by 3 by 3, and you say, okay, and there it comes in, or you drag and make this one, right? So this is just the same tool does different things. And I don't know if you remember that, but let's delete those because I don't want them right now. But if you made any, but it was just to remind you the tool that we've used. And the same with just about every tool you have here. It does a different thing if you click or if you drag. So now with the type tool, there's no difference. The type tool does two different things if you click or if you drag. So let's start by the most logical things people tend to do is just click, right? So go ahead and grab the T or type tool and then just click. That tends to be what most people tend to do. When you just click, Illustrator writes down this stuff, which is Latin, and it's been used for eons by us graphic designers to place text into documents when we're still waiting for, say, the client to give us the text for the web page or the text for the brochure, or the text for the book. But you know that text has to go there, so you need to start designing the piece, right? So you use this piece of text, which is a text from a very ancient book in Latin. And why is that? Because if you write anything in English and then you show the design, they're going to go, why are you talking about kids' playgrounds when I sell whiskey? Or something like that. And you're like, because it doesn't make sense. But in Latin, and people understand other languages, if you write it in Spanish or write it in German, but Latin, most people don't really apply a meaning to it, but it still has up and down and spaces, long and short words. So it looks like text. And so it's really good, what we call dummy text, okay? For dummies, which are the samples that you print out to show what the thing is going to look. So Illustrator puts out a little bit of dummy text, which starts always with the words lorem ipsum. So we just call it lorem ipsum text. But it's selected. See how it's black over white. So if I just click any letter right now, I'm going to click on the first letter that I see, it gets replaced by that letter. Okay. So that it's like a little sampling that just lays down there to say, yes, you have clicked, but then you start writing and it gets replaced. Okay. So now if I want to write something, since I didn't really mean to write the letter H, I'm going to go back one step, but now the cursor is sitting there and I can write a word. And so now I'm going to write basically what I'm saying. And I'm going to continue writing. And I want you guys to do that. Continue writing for a little while. Until I can show you. And since it's really small font, it's taking a while to show you what I want to show you, but it's okay. Let me move this up a bit so that you guys, let me move this. What is it now? It's not giving me the hand. Sorry, I ended up undoing. Let me go back to redo. I really redo Shift Control Z. It's not going to let me. I'm going to have to rewrite that again. Oh, okay. So I was trying to do, and I am messing it up, so it's taking longer than I thought to show you what I want to show you, and I'm almost there, and I made it. Okay. With a lot of typos, I finally got there. I finally got there. So this is what I was trying to show you, okay? That this kind of text is called point text, point type, okay? Because we just click, point and click. Doesn't follow or doesn't respect that which we normally would have expected for Word or from any other type thing, which is that why didn't it end at the end of the page and go down, right? And that's what we were accustomed to having things do. That all of these things, all of the type always respects and does the thing we used to do with the type. Who was still from the typewriter times that you had to go cling and just drink and go under. Now the computer does it for us. Well, not point type doesn't do that. So it goes out of the boundaries. And if I had kept writing, it would keep going, right? I should have used a bigger font and I wouldn't have had to read so many words. But now if I leave my type tool and go back to the selection tool, notice that this box becomes something that I can pick up and, move around because it's movable. But it's being treated as if it were an object, as if it were a box. So let me just show you what happens if let me just make this pink button. So remember, I'm going to go back to the type tool. If I were to grab this box, it has a bounding box. And if I stretch the bottom, it stretches. If I make it skinnier, it goes skinnier, right? It's a bounding box, allows me to modify the shape. So this type of text has a bounding box around it. And look what happens. If I try to stretch it, it happily stretches, messing up my text because it's treating text as if it were an illustration, a drawing, an object. If I grab it from here and bring it in, it's even worse. It distorts it, okay? So now I'm going to do Control Z a few times to bring it back to its regular size and shape. So what this kind of text works for is, for example, if I'm going to be treating my text as an object, if I'm going to be making a logo out of it, for example, if I'm going to want to play with it and distort it and reshape it and position it in different places and that kind of stuff, like that whole numero uno, where you can't just write that, you definitely need to do some stuff to make these things to happen, or the turn, right? So that's what point type text is for. Let me move this box over here so you remember that this is that kind of text. And now let me show you, if you want to work with text that actually works like the column on a brochure or the text on your business cards, or the words on your website, you need to click and drag as opposed to just clicking. And when you let go, so let's make a big box, it fills with the same lorem ipsum text, but this time it filled it with within the area. So this is called area text. It filled it within the area that I created this text in, right? So now I'm going to, again, go back to my move or selection tool. And yes, there's a bounding box and I can move this text around just like I could this one. I can just grab it and move it around. But the bounding box that here just messed up and distorted my text, in this case, if I grab it and make it smaller, it just leaves some text out or let some text in. If I move this in, it just redraws or it rewraps my text. It's not cutting it out. See here, the last word is the word DM, And when I move it over, the last one is said and DM is down there. So it truly does wrap the text within the area. And it proceeds to treat this as if it were actually text, not an object to be distorted or deformed. Has everyone been able to do both types of text? Area text and point text? If it's not working for you, if you can't make the distinctions, if one of these isn't, doing what it should do, please give me a note or raise your hand so I can help you. I really want every one of these concepts to be complete before I move on to the next one, because now we're going to be altering between these, playing around with these two types of text. All right, Vera.
Yeah, I couldn't get the box you got. I got the box around my typed sentence across.
Okay, so go to the type tool, right? And then instead of just single clicking, which is what got you the first type of text, instead you literally just, let me get rid of that. That's it, completely get rid of that. You need to click and keep moving, keep going and create a big box. And that's like you're assigning the area your text has to fall into. When you let go, the text will fill it up.
I got it.
The automatic Lorem Ipsum dummy
It filled
text.
it up, not with my words, but with the Latin you were describing.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Now, if I have my own words, I can then paste them in here and this will disappear and mine will appear, right? But for now, when we leave the tool and go away, it's just basic text. But now click on your move tool, your selection tool, sorry, the black one. And then you can see how you can move it around and it will wrap and adapt itself to the size box that you're giving it. But there is one big caveat, is that I remember I told you to make a big box to start with. When I make it smaller, where's all the rest of that text going? So notice, let's make our text box kind of tall and skinny. I'm going to lower your hand, Vera, so that if you need more help, I'll know that the new hand is a new hand.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So here we have a very tall and skinny box of text, but notice that at the bottom, and by the way, if you had made at the beginning, watch, if at the beginning you had made just a little area box and that's all you did, please go to the selection key, select this text and delete it. And just so that we can follow through with me, go back to the type tool and make a really big box, because I want a lot of Lorem Ipsum text to exist, okay? And then make it smaller so that you can really follow through with this class, because if you started with a little box, it'll be harder to see the effects of what I'm talking about, all right? So now, when you get with this little box, and this is something I haven't shown yet in digital design techniques, we're going to do this next week, but both Illustrator and InDesign work the same way, in the sense that it's going to warn you. Like, again, for InDesign, you guys, there'd be an error message here, but for us in Illustrator, there's no error message, but we have a little plus, a little red box right there on the bottom of this text box. We have a little box right there. And if I click away so that I don't see the boxes, see how I still see the red box right there? So it's basically that red box is telling me there's more text here that you're hiding, that you left behind. If I'm not the writer of this thing and I'm writing a brochure, right? And and I was given someone's text, I might decide to make the box a little bit bigger and then go, oh no, it looks better a little bit smaller. And I might not notice, because I don't really know about the subject matter of some technical machine that I'm making a brochure for. And I might not notice that I missed a sentence, because sometimes not everything makes sense in what's being written to our ears, right? Or it's a product number or something. So Illustrator warns us you've left some text. It's offset text, and that's what that little warning box is. So this means there's more text available. So now it's possible that I did this because I wanted to make a second column, or I wanted to put the next text in another page. You know how newspapers, or you read the first column and it says continued on page 73, you know, magazines. So whichever may happen, that little box there is telling me there's more text. So now let's go pick up the text that's left over. And how we do that is by clicking with our mouse, the very tip of the mouse, mind you, on that little red plus sign. And when we do it a single click, we'll end up having a little box, a little icon with a little bit of hanging text that's hanging from my tool. And what it's done is it's picked up that text that I just, left out. And it's waiting for me to drop it and make another box for it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to drop and make another little box for it right there. And so it's showing me that when I finish reading that, it continues over there. And oh, look at that. There's more text. So now I click on that one again. And now I'm going to make a little box like that. And here I'm going to put a photograph. And then there's more text. So I'm going to pick that up. And then I'm going to put the rest down here. And then there's more text, et cetera, right? So if you made enough of a big box, you've had enough to do at least 1 or 2 or 3 of these. And this here is called the thread. And it's showing me that from here to here, continues there, from here to here, continues there, from there, here, it continues there. Go ahead and click away. And it just looks like 4 boxes of text. And it doesn't matter if you put them in this order, in which order you put them in, if you made square boxes or long boxes. The whole point is what you don't want is to have like this box there and this box here, because people are going to want to do that to read it, right? So you just need to make sure that you place your boxes of text in a way that humans would logically, not humans, I'm sorry, people who speak English or Western, there's many languages that get read left to right, and then you have to not right to left, and then you have to modify what I'm saying. Yes, Christian?
Just a quick question, because there's so much text, it's just falling off of the page.
Mhm.
Do we just resize the boxes? Is that the best solution, to create another page, or?
No, well, I mean, clearly right now we're just playing around with text that is meaningless. And I made you make a big box so you'd have a lot of text. But if this were really the page for your brochure and you have too much text, you go back to your client and you go, hey, either the text has to be so tiny that no one can read it, or you need to just get some editing here and cut it out, right? So depending on your design, they'll go, no, all that text needs to be there. So then you need to modify your design so that you put more text and less image, right? So basically, if it really has to fit and there's no cutting of words that can be done, remember, the more you simplify, the cleaner and better the message, right? But if you can't cut any of this text out, then you got to redesign, right? So let's assume that that is something that you'll deal with when you get to the place where you were given 300 words and only 200 fit. If it's you writing it, it's just you work on rewriting it. And if you can't rewrite it any smaller, you make your images smaller, right? Or you change something else. All right. I'm always a proponent of less text. Okay. Although I am a bookworm and I love reading, but when it comes to marketing, people don't want to read. Just so you know, people don't want to read. All right. They just want to see. Okay. So did this work? And notice that when I select any one of them, the threads all appear. For my digital design techniques people, the InDesign works the same way, but you actually need to turn on the threads to see them. But everything I just taught you is the same for both. So what happens is the following. Let's change the color of this text only. So I'm going to go to the type tool, okay, right here. I'm going to select the text that's in this second box. And let's go change the color of this text. And I want to see in this case, because they've changed the way this box appears. If I were to go to fill like I normally do, right? Let me go for the color that's very different. I think bright pink. And I click away. That works. Okay, so I selected part of this text and I gave it bright pink. I'm going to select this text box. Instead of selecting the text, I'm just selecting the box. I'm going to fill. I'm going to make it bright orange. See how that worked as well. Okay, so as long as I'm selecting text, I can select the text or I can select the box, but it didn't treat all the text as connected. It didn't suddenly change all my text. It just changed the one, right, that I selected. I think orange is too subtle. Let me make it green. There we go. So now these are clearly very different. There's black, pink, black, and green. Now, why am I having you watch for a second? What's the point I'm doing this? To show you that if I were to now make this box bigger, that text had to come in from the box that I painted pink. So then that text kept borrowing from that one and then that one from this one. You see how it works?
Yeah.
The text keeps threading itself through. And this one is hard to show unless I change text color because this is Latin and it doesn't mean anything to us. So that's why the color is showing us that if I were to make a box now much bigger here, I even begin to have some of the green text. And it keeps coming through. It keeps resizing and rewrapping itself to give me text. Now, if I run out of text here, at some point you'll have not enough text, you'll run out, and then this one won't, won't keep coming in. But notice that all the new text that's coming in is coming in green because the last box was green. But all of this stuff kept its color. Now, because I had given it a color, I can know that if I go back here, that's about where I was at the beginning, because now it's kicked over to the right side, and I can then kick this back over. Okay, so go ahead and make sure that you do a bit of this where you're seeing the text threading through and wrapping through. And this is a good point to do a little bit of a screenshot with your image because it's a visual situation that is very well clearly defined. You can select like that and then do a screenshot to show me later that you follow this part. Your hand is up, Christian. Is it a new hand? Or is
Oh,
it from
sorry,
before?
no.
Oh, I'll lower it. It's okay. I just look up and I see it and I want to ask. All right. So I want to, any questions? Anyone for whom this isn't working before I move forward? So now, remember, this box happens to be all on the same page, but if I had, the back side of this brochure is the second page and I put this one down here. So say I had another art box here and put this down there, it would still work. If I were to drag up and down, they would still be connected. And that's exactly how it works with magazines or newspapers when they say go to page 72. If then an editor comes and decides to cut something, they won't suddenly have a hole on the page. It'll just bring it in from the back, right? And then someone will go in there and put some other little gizmo to fill in that space. All right. All right. No one seems to be.
Okay, I have a question.
Oh, yes,
I lost the
Vera?
blue lines. Those connecting lines are not there anymore.
You need to select for them to show. If you click away, so there's no selection, it doesn't work. But if you select them, then the boxes.
When I select it, I get them all selected.
Select it with the selection tool. I'm not sure if you have the type
Okay,
tool up.
that's right. Okay.
So it's the boxes. Yeah. If you have the type tool on, then the type tool actually deals with,
That kind of
the type tool itself. You go into the type and into the text and modify the text. Now, Another thing that I wanted to say about this is that if you select this type, select one box, the front box, for example, and decide that you want the font to be bigger, and go over here to where it says character and make it be much bigger. For the most part, since it's connected, it's going to try to change the font. Let me, oh, this is the kind of stuff that drives VDI crazy. Yeah. Yeah. VDI doesn't like it when I make it think this way too much. Is it working for the rest of you guys?
Yeah.
I keep undoing, but it stopped listening for a second here to me, so I can't undo it. Come on. So you know what? When it messes up like this, what I'm going to do is you don't need to do this, but I'm going to create a new. And I'm going to paste this one so I don't have to rewrite it. Close the other one because, and I'm just going to click and drag and create this again for a second. Okay, so now I'm closing that up. And I'm going to pick this up from here and make another box. And make a box. And from here, sorry. And make another box with that text. And pick the rest up from here. And make another box with that text. Okay, so now this is what I was doing before. I'm just missing the colors. So I'm going to just get this one color. And then now that'll do it. That's about what I had before. I can't do too many crazy font size changes and stuff here. VDI responds a bit slower and it just wasn't liking that. Anyway, but what I was trying to show you is that if I were to grab one box and go here to the type and change it, I'm going to change it only one time. For the most part, it's only changing the paragraph. Okay, because this changes paragraphs, but not all my text. It only goes to what it considers to have been the paragraph. I'm going to go back to point 12. So ideally, when you make changes to a font and size and text, you will select it first. Okay, so let me. The redrawing. There we go. Now I'm back to 0. The redrawing. So you would select the text and tell it what part. So maybe you want a big drop cap at the beginning. You want this big L to be really big. So you go here and you give it a big L or something like that. But you've selected it and then it sets it apart from the rest. And anyway, that's not a drop cap, but I'm not going to go into the details of how to do a drop pack right now. Just trying to show you that changes are better left to things that you specifically select, and then it works. Now, you can also change the fonts, the font type. So instead of Myriad Pro, for that section, I'm going to use this Bauhaus. Okay, so then I have that in the middle, et cetera, et cetera. All right, I want to show you one more thing about this text. I'm going to delete this box in the middle, which you can see is half black and half pink, and it's threaded through from here to there and from there to here. So the last word here is said. The first one is Akyum San or whatever. So just kind of remember that. I'm going to delete this box. Instead of the text, which is ideal, I should be deleting text if I want less of it. I'm going to actually hit delete on that box. And notice that this has rethreaded, and I start again with Diam, okay? And then the Autumn is where it started. So I didn't lose the text. Illustrator kind of continued the thread for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So now I'm going to bring this over a little bit and show you one last thing that's pretty cool. And then I'm going to focus again on the top type of type. But first, let's go a little bit more with this area type. Let's go ahead and make a circle. Grab an ellipse. Let's don't worry about the fill right now. Make a little circle. I'm gonna make a perfect circle by holding down the shift key. Remember, if you want to make a circle that makes itself from the middle, you hold the option key. Anyway, I've made a perfect circle. It's filled with black. If yours needs another color, I don't care. You know, the whole point is that you've made a circle. All right. Now, let's grab the type tool. Actually, let's go and select this last box where we still had some text. And let's go and we don't do it with the type tool, we do it with the selection tool. And go pick up some of that offset text from that last box. So I'm going to go over here and I want to see everyone having this little hanging text from your mouse. Okay, guys?
Yes, got it.
All right, so you've made a circle, you have hanging text from your mouse. Now watch, let me zoom in a little bit. And I'm going to zoom into the circle so you can see what I can do with the circle. Watch my mouse, so just watch. You can see that when I'm inside my box, the type looks very similar to what I had. But look at what happens when my mouse touches the tip of the shape. You see that?
Yeah.
There and here, I get like a little kind of like a parentheses in there. You see that? So now that I've done that, I'm going to just click. And my area, instead of being a box, is being defined by that circle. So it didn't matter what fill you had. What we're doing is we're creating text that fits into an area right now that is actually shaped like a circle. And see at the bottom of it, it tells me you have more text. So it's just a text box that happens to have a different shape. It fills the text box. Pretty cool.
Very cool. Love it.
Now, you have to be careful because normally text inside of a circle doesn't work too well. Usually you might need to make it center positioning so it works for a poem or something anyway. But that said, just wanted to show you that it. Had I filled a square, that's the whole point. That was the same as before, right? You can fill a star. It's even worse to read a star. It jumps from letter to letter, but you can fill any shape that you have with text. All right. Now, let's make one more thing happen here. Let me make a new artboard. So if you don't select anything, so you click away from everything, over here in the properties panel, it shows you edit artboard. So let's create edit artboards. Let's create two more. Since I know that I'm going to want two more, just click twice, artboard 1 and artboard 2. And then say exit. And then if I go down, I basically have two more artboards here, okay? And now let's zoom in a bit to the second artboard. And remember how I showed you how to make paths?
Diana, I lost them both. They just disappeared. Me too.
Okay, hold down the control and type 0. As many times you go,
Okay. it came.
yeah. Let me just explain why I said that, because this might happen to other people. See how now it looks like I lost my pages? I'm somewhere in the artboard. And so this happens a lot, okay? That you move your mouse and the way you click and suddenly you're like, oh, what happened? Control 0 fills your screen with your image again, okay? And so that helps you find the spot you were in before. Control 0 is a good place when you're somewhere like that, like your pasteboard just kind of, Control 0 gives you back your spaces, okay? That was my reply to her, just so you think it through for when it happens to you again. Okay, Control 0 is like, okay, I just want to see my whole page. And wherever your stuff is, boom, it all pops in again. All right, does everyone have a second page that they're on right now?
Yes.
Am I leaving anyone behind? Is anyone like unclear on any of this stuff? We're gonna make,
Diana?
yes,
It's Lisa. On my properties, I don't see because I've done additional artboards before, but it's not coming. I don't see where it says edit artboards. It
yeah,
just says, like,
if
transform appearance.
if you have something selected, then you won't have the transform.
Oh, got it.
So
got it, yeah,
click
yeah.
away, so you have
Yeah,
nothing
that was it.
selected.
Yeah,
And then you
got
have
it.
your artboards.
And then one other thing is that my text, when I clicked on it to put it in the circle, it was still going in as a rectangle.
So that one, you have to wait until your shape changes. So here's my circle, right? That I made, or oval or whatever that I made. I go pick up my text. And the important thing is that if I'm there, it's going to be a rectangle. If I'm here, it's going to be a rectangle. I need to put the tip of my mouse to touch my circle path. And see how I have like a parentheses around that little icon that's under my arrow?
Right.
Then that means fill my path. But if you do it at a quarter of an inch or eighth of an inch one way or off or the other way, it doesn't work. It needs to be right in there. Did that work?
And
if
you were using the type tool for that, correct?
No, I was using the selection tool.
The selection tool, when you selected the type.
When I picked up my offset text.
Yeah, got it, yeah.
I picked it up with the selection tool, but it
Right.
switches. So see, let me delete that. If I pick up this type with the selection tool and I click in here to pick up this extra type, see how it switched me to the type tool? So I'm using my selection tool, but it switched me to the type tool.
Yes.
And now there's like a little upside down L bracket around my text in there, and that same L bracket under my text in there. If I drop this right now anywhere, it's going to give me a rectangle, right? And that's what happened to you. So what you want is to have this other shape, which happens only when you touch the edge of this shape.
The edge. Ah, that's what it was. The edge. Got it.
The tip of my mouse has to be on the real.
I just dragged it into the circle thinking that was enough. I didn't touch the edge.
Inside, it kind of still looks like the box, only it went. So it needs to touch the edge.
Okay.
Then you click and then you drop your text.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for asking, because I'm sure someone else out there had the same problem but wasn't asking. So cool. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is, you know how we made some curves with these tools? Let's go ahead and I grabbed the curvature tool. I usually grab the pen tool for this, but I'm trying to learn how to use the curvature tool better because my go-to tool is still the pen tool, but I'm beginning to like the curvature tool more and more. So let's click and then click again to make a curve, and then click again and move up to make another curve, and then click up to make another curve. And then I forgot to get rid of the fill, but I'll get rid of the fill in a minute. When I'm done, I don't want a closed shape. I just wanted the path. I can do it now. I can go over here to the fill and say no fill. That way it's clearer what we're doing. But when I'm done, if I don't do something now, this is going to keep on hanging on to me. So do you remember what to do to get rid of this? To disconnect this, who remembers?
I just escaped and it worked. I don't know if that's right.
That was the right answer. Perfect. It escaped. Well done. That was what you had to do. Perfect. So now that stays as a single path. Now, if you got it very angled now with this tool, you can grab it and move things around a little bit, make it a more of a wavy little up and down, whatever you want to do. But again, when you start doing that, it wants to keep connecting. So hit escape again to tell it, no, 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 I'm done with you. And then let's go back to our selection tool. So we just made a path. It's a path that doesn't even have a stroke, by the way, because when I started it, mine didn't even have a stroke. Yours might have, but it's basically a path and nothing else. If I click away, there's nothing there. I have to hover and click and kind of drag to find it. There it was, right? So now let's go and pick up some more text. Okay, so I'm going to go and click up a little bit of this text. And now the fact that I didn't put a stroke on it is making it hard to find, so that won't work. So let me go back to my selection tool and pick it up. I'm clicking and dragging, and that way I'm picking it. Let's put a stroke on it just so that I can see it. I'm going to put a little pink stroke on it so that it's pretty obvious. Okay, so sorry about that, but now I can see what I'm doing and I can take the stroke off later. Okay, so let me go pick up some text again. Now I'm picking it up from the end of the circle. And now I'm going to intersect with this path. Okay, and click, and it's going to write on that path. Kind of cool. Yes, no, maybe.
Very cool. Love it.
In fact, here, I'm going to move these up a little bit. And I'm going to bring this text kind of over here. We have all our different threads and things in here. Anyway, so I'm sure that for some, when people, this did work, and for some it didn't. Don't be afraid of saying it didn't, and give me a call if you need help. Could be that you ran out of text at this point, in which case, if you ran out of text at this point, let me make another curvature tool path. There we go. And again, I guess it defaults to being filled. Okay, let me hit the no fill. Let me give it a stroke. Okay, and then I'll hit the escape key. So if I just have a path and I type, I'm not going to pick up text anymore. I'm just going to go to the type tool and I'm going to put my mouse on the path. This time I'm not picking up any type. I'm writing from scratch. So if I write over here, it's going to give me one of those boxes. If I do any place that I do, it's going to give me a point type text until, watch, I interact with that path. And then I get this kind of like little wavy line. When that wavy line is happening, right there, you see the wavy line I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like a little, then at that point, I'm ready to click. Boy, it moved on me. I'm sorry. Right there. Click. And then my lorem ipsum appears on my shape, and now I can replace it, replacing the dummy text with my own words. And you guys can be much more poetic, I'm sure, and write something really exciting about life and inspiration. I'm hoping your words are more poetic than mine. All right. So here I have type on a path that I've put on the same path. Now, I can modify this. Remember, you can modify text and paths by just either going back to the curvature tool to modify it or the white arrow tool. The white arrow tool also helps us modify. I can grab, click and drag, and then move this up and move this out and move this there and this down. And have that. Doesn't usually work to have very tight curves with text because then it kind of breaks the text up a little bit. Okay. So this right now that I'm doing is using the white selection tool. I could have done it with the curvature tool. I'm just modifying that original path that I made. Anyway.
Diana, can we go back to the circle when you put that in? This path I was able to do because I've done it in Photoshop before. But that other one, I could not get that little hanging box to put it in my circle.
I'm going to stop my share. Go ahead and share your screen. The last thing that I was sharing was to show you that it's not only about that big box of text. You can just type your own little
Ah.
3 words, right? On okay, so
It must be the VDI one. Okay, there it is. Right there, I could not get that little box.
yeah, because you first need to select the text, which you're in your type tool, which you cannot do. So you need to go to your selection tool, select your text, click on the box somewhere, anywhere. No. Just click on the box.
It's also grayed out, so I don't know.
Try again. Maybe you had double clicked and you were in isolation mode. Click again. There it is. You must have been in isolation mode if it was grayed out.
There's the little box.
Yeah, so there's no red box there to click because you threaded it to one more box. It's always going to be at the last box.
So if I take this out,
Well, is there a red box at the end of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there, click it, click. Yep, pick that up.
if I click there, will it jump to this location?
No, you need to pick it up first and then you tell it where to go. Nothing will jump on its own. So now you undo Command Z because there's a little bit of a mess there and you want to clean it up. Command there. Okay, so go and click on that little red box. Yeah. Move your mouse out to see if it's carrying the box. No. So try again. It's a small box, so it's harder. Yeah. Oh, there. When it looked like an arrow, it was going to work. But now when it looks like those things, yeah. There we go. See how now you picked up text? Move your mouse out for a little bit. See how now you've got that little icon? Now, wait, don't click. Now you have to touch the very edge of this shape. And if you're touching the edge of the shape, click.
There it is. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Now,
Okay.
yeah, and then you already did your own type over there. This is fun to learn. Type on a path and read it. It's perfect. If you had wanted to, you could have picked up the text from here and clicked it onto a path and it would have gone into a path. But the last thing I taught is exactly what you did, which is to put your own text on a path. Okay, so cool.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else who has a question? No. All right. Okay. Let me share my screen. Here we go. All right. So now I have my type on a path, my threaded type, my threaded in area, no matter what shape. Text in an area is what this is, area text. Type on a path. All of this threaded, type on a path that's not threaded. Okay, so that's cool. There's the last page. And if you have space here on this one too. But now I'm going to move over to the last page. And now I want you to click away first. Make sure you're not connected to anything, that you don't have any leftover hanging connections to other text. So just click somewhere neutral so all your selections disappear. Right? And now let's go to our type tool. And now we're going to do point type again, because point type is the one that we can manipulate to make a logo kind of thing. So up until now, we've been using how to use Illustrator to use boxes of text right? Just general text, things that need to be read as information, so to say, or yeah, bigger bunches of text. But now, what if you want to turn a word into a decoration? A logo, in a way you can consider a branding, marketing, all that other stuff, but it's really an art piece that happens to be made with words, right? Or it's a headline of a magazine where you're trying to have a striking headline, right? So we don't only work with words to make logos, we also try to make some striking hold on, I'm speaking louder and louder because there's noise in my house and I see that I'm trying to speak louder and louder to overcome it, but I have these noise canceling headaches, headsets. So it's okay. I need to ask them to lower their voice, but it's okay. For now, it's not that bad. All right. So now, up until now, I've just been clicking and then changing my type. Notice that if I pick up my type tool, I could first change my type and then click. So I have no idea where you guys are at this point. This, I guess, is the type that I chose for this last thing because the type is always set with the last type. So let's go ahead and choose a font first that you want and just choose something that you think is pretty or cute. It doesn't matter what. Just as a sample text. It doesn't even need to be I don't want you to spend any time thinking about what text you're choosing. So just choose something, okay? I'm gonna leave it at Bauhaus because it's fat and it's good to show you guys a fat font. And then you can choose the font size. So let's go for something, I don't know, biggish. And then we'll decide how big that is once we see it. We don't know. If you first don't know much about points, you don't know if 48 is too big, too small, if it's humongous. The only thing, I think everyone kind of has an idea that when you start typing in a document, a Word document or something, it kind of comes out as 12 points. So you have an idea that 12 points is your basic size that a print comes out as. So 49 is, quite a bit bigger. All right, so that's at most, because this is a letter type page only, we put it sideways. So you can begin to have an idea that it's going to be definitely bigger than that. And now we're going to click over here and we're going to find that that's whatever you chose, that's the size it is. Again, it's selected text. That's why we're seeing it backwards, so to say, black, white on black, because it's selected and it's giving me that white background. And now let's write a single word. And let's start by writing the word numero, because we're going to go for that logo that we did there. So write it in uppercase. There's some sound. Let me mute, I think, my son. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure that we hit your caps lock so that we have all this in uppercase. And then I'm going to write the word numero. Okay, so numero. And I discover that in Bauhaus, the first N of numero does not really look like an uppercase, but there we go. That's uppercase in Bauhaus. Now, if I want to change any of this, you need to, like if you were to have written numero and you want to get rid of the E or add it, you need to click inside of the text, get that little blinking cursor, and then you can correct your type that way. Anyway, when you're done, you leave the type tool, go back to your selection tool, and then go, oh, I wanted this bigger. So since this is an object, and if you stretch it, you're gonna mess it up because it really isn't being worked on as type. If you want to make this bigger proportionally by pushing or pulling, what should you do?
Shift.
Grab one of the corners, hold down the shift key, and make it bigger or smaller that way. Sure, that's one way. Let's leave it smaller. But yeah, that would have worked. Another way is just treating it as text and go over here and maybe make it 72 points.
Yeah.
And if 72 is the automatic size that's the biggest, then you want it bigger. Then you get in there and maybe you make this be 200. So you have to go in there and type 200 and then hit return or enter. and then it becomes bigger. So you can treat it as text and use this, or you can just hold the corners and make it bigger as long as you hold down the shift key so that it stays in and out. And see, now it went down to 111 points. So it works both ways. Just remember not to distort it by holding down the shift key. Okay, so here we've got our numero. I have no idea if this font will work for what we're gonna do, but I'm playing with it because it's big and good. This looks like it might work more for the other one, the logo that I was using in Digital Design Techniques, the turn one, right? It kind of looks a bit like that. You? Yeah, you're all looking at me like, what are you talking about? I can see the tired faces. It is Friday night or Friday evening. I'm torn because I know we need breaks, but I was going to ask us not to have a break so I could leave 15 minutes early, but maybe we'll have a break anyway. And then I might leave 15 minutes early and then ask you to say an extra 15 minutes next week. I have, my husband invited me to a concert and we'll try to get there a bit early. Yeah. So, numero. Okay, so this is text. Some of you guys used this word as you stretch it out as if it were text. Some of you stretch it out as if it were, oh, I forgot one. What time is it? I forgot one thing. This is fine. Leave that there. Let's scroll back for a second to that first page with the, I just want to show you one more thing that I haven't shown you yet. And if you have type that was supposed to be area type, right? I'm going to push this down a little bit here. It was supposed to be area type, but you single clicked and started writing. You had this problem where you went, oh God, I forgot to make an area for it. You can alter and exchange its properties so that it becomes area type. So go back to that first long one that you made and see this little kind of sticking out antenna that's hovering over there.
Yeah.
If I click on, if I double click on it, it went from white to blue. And that converted it to area type. So now if I grab the corners and, you know, redraw it, it'll become area type. So that little antenna, when it's blue, it's area type. When it's white, it's point type. Okay. Just thought I'd show you that. That said, I want to leave it as point type for the sample page. And here's the problem. If I now say, oh, I want to turn it back into point type, I could, but watch. If right now I were to double click to turn it back into point type, it worked. See how it went white? And now if I stretch or pull, I'm distorting it. But then I go, oh, I didn't mean to do that. And I double click again. If I now try to stretch it out, it's like it has like, you have to rethread the text. It doesn't wrap anymore. It's like you had a return behind every symbol anyway. So don't be like back and forth. That messes it up. Don't do it yourself. Just know that choose one or the other, but don't keep going back and forth because stuff happens to the whole wrapping ability of it. It thinks that you tried to do a hard return. Ow. I feel on my knee and I have this huge scab. I mean, this big, that's been on for 3 weeks. Ow. And yesterday, one little tip had come up and I happened to pull up my blanket and the whole thing tore off. I mean, I can't tell you. And so now I just have these loose pants on, like yoga pants with a Band-Aid on. And every time I move sideways, I've had so much pain on this. I guess a new scab is forming. And you know, knees and scabs and how you move a knee and a scab doesn't want to stay. It's been torture, but I'm particular torture today because the old scab fell off. Anyway, so I just undid that, just so that I get back to my original point type, because I want that to be the sample that you have. I want it to be that when you try to stretch it, it'll stretch. But I just wanted to show you what that little antenna on the right would be. So if I were to want to turn this into point type, I could, but then the rewrap would get messed up. It's fine to go one way, but it's hard to go back and forth and back and forth. All right. I just wanted to show you that. And here we go back to the good numero. And I showed you that because I was noticing that there, and I wanted to say I could convert it to area type, but for one word that makes no sense. I want us to make a few copies of this. So remember the shortcut to make copies? Select it, hold down the Option or Alt key, and then click and drag out. And here we make a copy. Let's put one kind of there and then make one more to get to the bottom. Now we have 3 copies of this text. How did that go?
Good.
Oh, wait. It's reminding me that I need to update it, and I'm telling it, no, not yet. I'm busy, computer. Oh, here, a lot of you guys like it when I put in the link to the Padlet at the beginning. So let me put the link to the Padlet right here. There you go. Illustrator Padlet. Okay, so do we have 3 copies? Is anyone not with me? Because now I'm going to embark on something new. So is anyone not with me? Lost, needs a minute, needs a hand? It's okay, whatever size and shape font you decided to make. You don't have to have my font. Size, I want it big-ish, but you don't have to have my font. You can have a different font. And we can choose a different word later. Right now, I just want to show you how to operate with text that you want to alter. This one, we're going to leave as text. So it'll always be like our example up at top. That is pure text. And you can know it's text for a couple different reasons. One of them is this baseline line right there that's running down the bottom that the text is sitting on. You'll see that when the text is not text anymore, which is what we're going to do to it, this line will disappear. This is only something that real text has. That's one of the giveaways that this one's text. The other giveaway is that if you do go to the type tool and you put your mouse in there, you get a cursor, meaning you could change this, right? Because it's still text, it's still editable. I'm going to undo that so that we keep, you know what I did here that didn't work is that the only time that I was trying to move back and with the hand, remember that I was trying to go back here with the V, the letter V, to move back to my selection tool. But when you type a V and you're in the type tool,
Yeah.
an actual V writes, it's the only time it doesn't work. Anyway.
Yeah.
So that's one example of how you know it's type. Now, there's one and only one tool while it's still type that allows you to modify these words, these letters. So let's select the second one. And it's a tool that showed up. Oh, how funny. They don't have it in this shortened version, Essentials Classic. It's not there. Okay, let me show you this. In this Essentials Classic, where you have much less tool, no, sorry, in the regular Essentials now versus the Classic, where you have foreshortened amount of tools. If you have a tool here that you want, you can look for it by clicking on these 3 dots. You guys don't know that there's a tool that I want to show you. you wouldn't know. Once you know all the options of Illustrator, there's many more options. But let's click on this 3. So I'll show you how to edit the toolbar. And here it gives you every single tool available that could be on the toolbar. It's just that it's giving you less than normal because it's trying to make things easier. That's that essentials toolbar. Let's head over to the type toolbar. So scroll down until you see type. And this one, the area type tool, is the one I want. Okay, so you can just drag it and drop it in there under that type so it appears in there. Can you even put it inside that group? Yeah, I think you can put it inside that group. And then you can just click on those 3 dots, okay, and it goes away. So now when I click and hold, there it is. It's called the area type tool. It's a kind of funky, but it does help you sometimes when you just want to do a quick editing. So once again, hit on those 3 little dots, scroll down on all of these possible tools until you find the choice of type. Then select the one that I just told you, and then just drop it on top of the type tool or nearby, somewhere in there. You can even drop it in the bottom, as long as you know where it is. And then click on the 3 dots again to have that disappear. And now I'm going to go choose that by clicking and holding, and it's that area type tool. Okay, so just watch for a minute what I'm going to do. Oh, funny, it's not the area type tool. What did they call it? Oh my God. It's not the area type tool. What did they call it? I'm so sorry. Touch type tool. Sorry, it's called a touch type tool. I apologize. That's the one I need. The names of these tools. Let's go and put that one in there. So now I've added 2 instead of 1, but that's okay because that's the one I want. I don't know. It's a touch type tool. Click away. The area type tool helps you put type in an area. It's just that in the past you had to use that. Now you just look at the shape and it works. So you don't need that one anymore. Okay, touch type tool. Does everyone have the touch type tool available now?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so now this is a very newish tool that appeared in Illustrator. I don't know when, but a few years ago. And while text is still text, right? If you select the touch type tool, it allows you to modify it, something that normally you cannot do. Let me show you. I'm going to select this letter N, and it gives me like this little bounding box around it. And I can go ahead and grab it. Oh, my mouse is shifting. Grab this little bounding box and make the N much smaller, and see how the rest of the type is kind of following along. It doesn't like leave a hole. It's like it's connected.
Yeah.
Now let me grab the M, and I can put my mouse on the outer edges, and I can over here, this little top little circle, and I can swivel it around, or I can grab this E and I can swivel it in the other direction, and then I can grab it and bring it a little bit closer, and then I can grab this R and make it huge. Like if I hold down the shift, make it bigger, over, and then I make this O and make it smaller. Or in this case, I'm distorting it because I didn't hold down the shift key. So and I can bring it up again. So I'm going to just grab this one, and I don't know, I'm playing around. I'm not trying to make anything in particular that looks good or bad. I'm just showing you how you're able to modify. And here's the deal. When you leave that type tool and you go back to the regular type tool, you can still edit it. I can still select this U and turn it into an A because it is still type. This is the only tool that allows you to modify type, size, and inclination of it, so to say. Keeps considering the text type enough that it allows you to edit the type. So this, for some things, it's pretty useful and pretty cool. Did everyone get a chance to do that with their type?
Yes.
So again, it's that little area type tool. No, touch type tool. Sorry. And there you go. So, and the most important thing is it still lets you work with these as if they're text and they're still editable. Okay. Play around with that. Bring it over. Anyway, there you go. I think I like the first setting better. Okay. That's one thing, but this is still type. So it still belongs in a way up there with this other stuff. I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller, but I'm gonna hold the corner so it stays proportional. I want a little bit more space for this one. Okay, so now I'm in my selection tool, by the way. I'm treating it now, selecting it and making it a little bit smaller, just so I know it's aware, it's there, but I'm just kind of putting it to the side. Now we have our last version of the text with some space around it. And this one, I'm going to modify, and you know what? I have to give you a break. Break alarm already went off. Can we have a short break? You guys exhausted? You need the full 15 or can we do 10?
10's fine.
10. Some people, you're okay?
It's fine. 10's fine.
It's fine. Okay, I'm only hearing from 2. Hopefully no one else is speaking up. I'll go, well, that's fine. Let's just do 10 minutes. As I said, I'm gonna try to finish 15 minutes early. So this takes only 10 minutes off the class and then I'll make up with 10 more minutes. But let's go ahead. It's 3:19. Let's say it's 3:20. So be back by 3:30. Yeah, okay. All right. I'm gonna mute everyone so you can make all the noise you want. All right, sorry, guys, I've been here, but I got a text that I had to handle. Ah. Anyway, complications. But anyway, things happening. All right,
Diana,
yes.
tell me who you're going to see.
Oh, it's yeah, I don't have, it's not even a concert, it's at the Bull, it's comedian Steve Martin.
And
Thank
Martin
you.
Short, right?
And
Steve
Steve Martin and Martin Short, yeah.
Get an autograph, please, and show us.
Okay, I'll take pictures. I don't know about an autograph. We do this thing, my husband and I, we do a lot of biking, and he is very active in the world biking, cycling, biking. And we always volunteer to park bikes at the Bull. So if you want to bike to the Bull, you get free parking, and there's lots of volunteers that we go there and park bikes. And so as one of the perks of doing that is that we get to watch 80% of the show because different volunteers stay with the bikes while others go to watch the show, and we take turns. So that's the setup. But the thing is that as bike volunteers, we need to be there early. It's not like I go there at the time of the show, but I have to be there early to set up the space, and that's why we need to get there. So
That's cool.
yeah, but even then, there's so many volunteers, it's hard to get the ones you want. And you really wanted to, I don't think I've ever watched comedians ever at a show in my life. And so I've watched music, but not comedians. So I'll tell you later. Supposedly he plays music too. I don't know. I'll tell you guys next week.
Yeah.
All right. So, but over the years, we've managed to see some really good concerts that way. So, but I don't know this one. I'll tell you. I'm hesitant. I'm like excited, but I'm also like comedian at the Bull. I don't know. Anyway, let's go back. I'm going to share my screen. But you know, I guess Jack has very fond memories of childhood of Steve Martin. As a not American, I'm not American. For me, Steve Martin is someone who I don't know much about because he hasn't been active. Maybe he's been active in movies. I don't know, but he's not. I don't remember
I
anything
literally
he's
grew
been
up
in.
with Steve Martin. He was all over the movies when I was a kid.
Yeah, and that's my husband.
Oh my
exactly.
God.
And
Yeah.
he's absolutely hilarious. He's
Oh, he's so funny.
hilarious.
Okay, good.
And he's really big into biking. He is true.
House of Icon.
Oh, right.
He lives here in Santa Barbara. So
Oh, he does.
yeah, I met him a few times when I worked at Paradise Cafe when I was in college.
Oh, all right. So he's a
He
local.
used to ride his bike in.
He's probably going to break in if he's a local. Okay. I don't think so. But maybe he'll stop by and give us a little nod.
Right.
All right. So then I'll tell you about, hey, look at the story that came out of that. I had no idea. All right. So now, cool. So that's where I'm going. All right. So here we are, numero. And I just managed to change into jeans so that I'll be in my jeans ready to jump out. But my knee, oh my God, knees on a knee that has no
Oh my God.
crust. This is not good. But I was like, I can't go in my little yoga pants. I'm gonna be cold.
Diana,
Yes.
put ice because that helps so much. My Chihuahua bit me on the lip and it was
Ouch.
so swollen. And I put a bottle of water in the freezer
Mm.
and I just put it. Oh my God, it helped
helped?
so much. Yes. Do that,
Well,
Diana,
I'll do
before you
that
go.
tomorrow. No, because I gotta go and be there moving bikes around. It's okay. It's just that the jeans are tight, and I'm like, do I have loose jeans? I don't know. I put a Band-Aid over it for now. I take it off later. Okay, numero. Here we go. This is text, and we don't. This is all we can do with text, right? What I showed you there, which is fine. But what if I want to do more changing? Then I need to stop it from being text. I need to actually take this text and turn it into shapes. And it will not be editable anymore. If I made a typo and it should be something else, I can't change it once I do that. But as long as we keep one version of it in type mode, that's why I made a copy, I can still go fix it and then start all over again. But so now let's go over here, select your type, with the selection tool. Select your type. And then let's head over to type. And we're going to create outlines. Now, remember I told you about that line that defines this as being type? Even in this altered one, that line was a little bit altered, but it was there. Here, there is no line. There's just a bounding box now.
Got
Now,
it.
at this point, it still moves around as one because when you first convert text to type, it comes in as a group. So in fact, if we were to go to layers, you'll discover that this is considered a group, right? And each one of the letters is their own part of that group, but it's a group of letters, which still moves around independently at this point. But if I were to ungroup it, then each one is a shape. Now, these are shapes that look like letters, but they're not letters anymore. Text will not modify them. So if you have a group, remember the robot, the flowers, if you have a group and you want to modify one of them, like if I go to properties right now and want to make only one of them a color, I can't because the whole thing will be a color because it's a group. So how do we then make one of these things be altered only? There's two ways.
Well, you can go into layers and select the thing that you want altered.
You're right. You're right. So that makes me think there's three ways then, because I'd forgotten about that one. I can go to layers. I can select, for example, the M, right? So see how the M got selected by selecting that little circle. And then I can go to properties and change just the color of the M. So you're right. So then there's three ways. I had forgotten about that one. That's one way. Good. Thanks for remembering. What's the other way?
You can double click on one of them.
Yes. Isolation mode, right?
Yep.
Double click. Now I need to double click again. Now I've reached the U. And now I can select the U, go to properties and change just the U. Okay, so that's another way. Now I'm saying change, but I could also be doing what I did there, right? I could move it, I could switch, you know, that kind of thing. But right now I'm just going to show you the fact that it became just by changing colors. I'll hit escape to get out of the way. And what's the third way? I see your hand up, Linda, so give me a second while I ask for the third way and then I'll give you a hand. How do you modify something beyond width and height if it's an object, right? So let me head back to the first here. Let me give you this example. If I drew a star, right?
Yeah.
And I have a bounding box. I can make it fat, thin. I can make it one color, right? Great. But what if what I wanted to do was change the tips of the stars? Not change like add or delete like I've taught you before, because once the shape is done, but what if I wanted to modify any of these paths and anchors? What would I have to do?
Well, wouldn't you click on the path
Yeah, it won't do much with this tool in
Or-
hand.
anchor? No.
What tool do I need to choose?
Selection.
Selection tool.
The
The direct selection
Direct
tool.
selection tool.
Yeah. Okay.
Then with the direct selection tool, I can go in here, click this anchor and move it, right?
Yeah.
Change other stuff. Right. So now with the direct selection tool, I can select one of these, the E, and then suddenly, sorry,
Oh, got it. Okay.
select it. And then remember, select it again. And then I can click this tip and make it have a little party hat. I can select this bottom and select this guy and make the curl of it bigger, right? So this is how I can modify or change. Or if I want to, I can grab the curvature tool and grab this and, you know, actually, no, because I didn't make this with the curvature tool, or can I? Yeah, I can with the curvature tool. Grab it and modify it. I could also use the pen tool to get rid of some of these if I don't want, so I can click on some of these and it turns into a minus and I can get rid of some of these excessive ones. Okay, there's some other things I can do, but mainly the white selection tool. And then single click and go for changing. So now I've had Linda patiently raising her hand for a while. So yes, Linda,
Yeah, I have a Ricky question because I'm rusty at this. You select all the text and then how did you get it where you have paths?
okay, so you select it and you go up to type,
Okay,
create outlines.
okay. Outlines. Okay, there it is.
And
Thank you.
now it's just shapes. And in fact, do you guys recognize what's happening here from what we did last week? What kind of shape is this?
Compound shape.
It's a compound shape. In fact, you always thought of it as an O, but think about it. It's an O, it's a donut, it's transparent in the middle. And yet, if you go over here, see that we can get rid of it being that shape. See the choice of, I didn't show you the choice of release where you can let go of that compound shape, but watch all these groups. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can read these choices, but they're all compound shapes in one way or another. That's what ends up happening when you outline things. And here's my compound shape, that's the O, right? So if I go back to properties, I could hit the word release. And if I do that, I end up with two circles, right? And if I double click, one of those was a little circle on top of the other. And that's what was really making my O. So everything we learned the other day, we're seeing here happening, right? As far as shapes within shapes that make these things happen. So I'm not Command Z, because I want to keep it as a note. But that's really what that was. We went from a zero, an O that was text, turned into a path. What Illustrator did is it created a compound shape here so that this thing knocks out that piece. Okay, so if you double click, you get into like a release here of this one. It's nothing really, there wasn't like an internal shape knocking anything out because they're all open. But this one did do that, right? So I don't necessarily understand why Illustrator needs to make these compound shapes as well. That I don't really understand the inner workings of Illustrator. All I know is that when there's a shape like an A, like an uppercase A that has a triangle, that triangle would be a little triangle that knocks out, that kind of thing. Okay, but if this R had closed, then this little bit will be, so some of you guys might have an R that closes, then you'll see that little bit is also a little compound shape like my O. Depending on the font you chose, my R is probably one of the few R's that doesn't really close. All right, so those are different ways of editing this. Now I'm editing it just by going in there and doing weird, funky stuff, right? But you can do stuff that's more meaningful or more useful to make the shape change in a way that does matter. So for those of you in digital design techniques, this is how we would go to that turn and fix all those things. And we're going to do that a little bit next week. Fix those things that didn't scan well. So this whole conversation today started with me talking about scanning things in, right? And so say you scan something in, live trace it, and it looks almost okay, but not completely okay, then you can fix it by turning it into outlines. Well, live trace turns it into outlines, and then you can modify the points and pieces and bits until you get what you want again. Okay, so now we're actually modifying by distorting because this was a perfectly shaped numero. But if you were to now, let me share again, remember the little doggy that I showed you earlier. If I were to trace that guy in and bring it in, I'd end up with a bunch of paths that then I'd have to modify, alter the way I'm doing right now with these three choices that we just came up with. because it'll come in as a group shape, and then I can start altering and modifying to make this look more like a dog toy, to make this look more like a paw, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Let me come back to my shape. All right, so now let me know if this something is not working for someone. If something is not working for someone, I'll help you up until this point, and if not, we'll move on to adapting this. Now I'm lowering your hand, Linda, because I'm assuming it's your old hand and that you don't have a new question.
Thank you. Yes.
No, okay. Everyone was able to modify their text in some manner or another. Did I show you the live effects? I believe I've shown, maybe I showed you at the beginning. There's these effects that you can put on stuff that might, they're a bit chintzy, but for some things they work. I'm gonna go to window and bring up the would it be? It's not under live effects. Oh, I am kind of lost with this extension, you know, because in my essentials, the effects were right there. Where would they be? Oh, under effects. Effect gallery, maybe? Yeah, I think it's under effects gallery. You open that up. Nope, that's like the Photoshop effects gallery. I'm looking for the effects that that would work on one shape. So let me. So these are the Photoshop ones. There's some that are here, distort and transform. Okay, so I've selected that M, and I can go to the effects, distort and transform that showed up as tools before, but now you need to find up there. And then I could go in and, I don't know, I'm gonna go to roughen, right? And then this whole thing gets kind of roughened up, and I can choose if I want more or less detail in that roughen, if I want to move this to much deeper or less or one, you know, stuff like that. So you can play with that kind of stuff, and then you say, okay, you end up with that kind of thing. There's a palette for this, for just the tool that does this effect, because this effect is happening to the entire shape right now. Say that I go twist, well, with a circle, 45 degrees twist isn't going to do much. Let's go to the R and do a twist and give it a 45 degrees twist, and then there's my little R to the R. Anyway, so you can play around with some of those. I think that if I click in here, I can find the tools for transforming. Yeah, here they are. So yeah, I missed some of the basic tools, but here's some of those tools that allow you to do it to pieces. So say that I grab this scallop tool right there, right? Now I'll just drop it in there somewhere. I'll put it somewhere in the middle there. And I select that. Then I can grab a shape, right? And then I can just scallop a piece of it instead of the whole thing. Like I can use it as a thing. Anyway, they're funky, they're useful, but they're a little bit. So for some, like the other day, I think I made a whole bunch of grass. And what I did is I had some lines and I just gave them some spiky effects, and it turned into like grass. I think last Illustrator class I did that for one of these shapes. So let me see if I can show you. Google Drive, just because we have less time on this for shortened class. Let's see if I have my Illustrator. These are the summer ones, so no, I put them somewhere else. This is the class files, Illustrator. Graphics. Just trying to find the This is where I have the classes from other. Yeah, from spring. It might be these. No, that's spring V2. That's the other summer. Well, anyway, I wanted to show you the looking at the down here, your classes spring 2022, because I know that I used that effect and I just want to show you that without having to. So meanwhile, you should be playing with those effects and that stuff. Did I not save it? It's a whole. Yeah, I don't seem to have saved it. It's a whole. It's okay. It's all right. I probably have it on. I downloaded it into my computer. All right. Back to Illustrator. So it was an example where I was showing blend. Oh, I know where it is. It was there, but I just showed you, but never mind. All right, so let's go ahead and let's open with these tools that some of them are able to be used in whichever way you want. Let's see if we can create with that word. And then your homework will be to try to create your own, or maybe you can copy an existing logo and try to recreate it. But we're going to create something either like this or like this. You have the samples there. So it starts with the words numero uno, and then here they put the N and the U, then they made a long M, then they have the E under the U and the big O. So that's one thing you can do. Or in this one, we have the M continues with the U, the ER are short, and then the O gets big. So it's just ways of modifying these to end up with something that looks a bit more or less like what we wanted. So let's go ahead and grab that numero again, the top one, the text one. Copy it. And the reason I want us to get the first one, because I want us to still be able to modify or change its font if need be. So say copy, paste, and let's, well, actually, let's save this file. We haven't saved it yet. So let's save this file, say save as. And then head over to Drive, Illustrator class files. There you go. And then here we'll copy, we'll call this text practice. And save. So we have a couple of different pages of this text practice. All right. And then let's go copy this first word numero. And if you guys want to do something else with a different word, please feel free. But if not, we're going to do together this one. So say file new. We're going to do the same. So just by saying create, it'll give us the same exact thing, and then say paste. And with this one as the starter point, let me, so if someone's trying to copy and you're getting a little rejection, maybe you're not selecting the right thing. If you're in VDI might be asking you, if you want to copy, it gives you this little question here. Click to confirm, copy to your local keyboard, something like that. I hear a little ding ding happening back there. It tells me that. Okay. All right. So, ready to go? Yep.
I'm good.
Okay, so now we're going to, let me see, will this one work? I don't know if this font will work. Let me go and let me open. These both are Illustrators. So let's open them. I'm going to double click so that I can have them handy as a reference to open them up and see what's needed. You need to kind of study the font. You would be making this choices yourself because it would be your logo, right? But here we're trying to imitate a sample that's already there. And I'm finding that in this one, there's no connection to the two letters. In this example here, there's just making sure that they're the same width, which sometimes letters are not the same width. So if you want to imitate this kind of example, one thing you need is some pretty graphic square lines and see where they touch, they kind of match, and then the O can be extended. On this one here, we have the U, the letter of the M continues with the leg of the U. So look at the font that you chose and see if it looks like it's something that could be done. And can you stretch the letters to be double height and have them still be recognizable? The little E and the R and the N are the normal ones, and then a stretched O again. So pay attention to the letters that you chose and see if this would read. Now, I know that this is numero uno because I've seen this for a while, but when you first saw this, was this hard to read? And it didn't mean that. This one, on the other hand, is probably maybe easier to read. Logos need to be easy to read, but also not necessarily so completely simple. I mean, ideally, there's something in there that's workable or readable. I have, so back to the text that we chose, and let's see. Well, to start with, we have to turn it into outlines. So I'm going to go create outlines. And then I'm finding if I try to use the idea of one being under the other, these are not going to be the same, but maybe it'll work because they're this, yeah, this font that I have probably is not going to work. To see how different they are, like the legs or the parts of the pieces won't work, but maybe I'll find another thing that plays with this. But if I do this, will I still read it as an N and a U? Probably not, but let's see. Let me play if I do this. So play around with the font that you have to see if there's any way it can still be readable once you do. I don't think this is going to read. If I do that, maybe I can make this one. Then I break the, yeah, and then here, turning this one into a long, yeah. I don't know. I'm thinking this one isn't probably the best kind of font to do this with, but gave it a try, right? I don't think that this kind of, it's too round, and both of these examples are showing a font that's very squared off, and it's it's called a sans serif, which means sans serif. It doesn't have the little extra edges to a font that, give it like little places to set in. And this one, although it doesn't have any of those serifs, it's kind of rounded, so it's not going to work. So basically, the font you start with does matter. So let's put this one to one side. If you have one that works already, go for it. But I'm going to put this one to one side. I'm going to move it away. And I'm going to I'm going to paste again, because remember, when you paste it once, you still have it available, right? So it's still in the memory of my computer. So I'm going to paste again, Command or Control V to paste again, and I'm back to the original text. Now, why do I want it back to be the original text? Because now it still can change its font, versus if I tried to go with this one that I did an object outline. This is not text anymore. These are shapes that are modifiable, but they don't mean that anymore. So it matters what text you start with to do this kind of stuff. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to copy this a few times with the Option or Alt, maybe 4 times. I don't know. Does it fit 4 times? Maybe I have to move them all up a little bit. So I've been holding down the Option key. I'm going to select them all, and now I'm going to test out different fonts on them. So let me see. I'm going to go over here to Bauhaus and I'm going to see, okay, if I try this one, I'm going to have, this is an example of a serif font. These are those little thingies that I say that stick out on the tops and bottoms of letters. That's a serif. And for this kind of example, a serif probably won't work. So let's keep looking. Now you can spend hours doing this, right? And you have all these fonts that clearly are not going to work mixed with ones that are going to work. So what's a better way to look through our fonts? If we already identified that we don't want fonts that are serif, we don't want fonts that are too roundish, I can use my font menu here to help me look at only fonts that might work. They have to be sans serif, which is without these little guys, okay? Maybe not so curly or designy. I want a bit of a straighter font. So watch, I can go over here to these filters. So how do I pick this up? I went here to where I changed fonts, right? So I went and clicked as if I wanted it to change to a different font. And then here I have a thing called the filter. And I click on the filter and then it lets me classify what I'm gonna see based on certain choices. So I know that I don't want sans serif with serifs, slab thick serif. So I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want a hand script one nor a funky, these two. So at this point, the two that seems that I might want would be sans serif, that one, and maybe monospace, fixed width, right? Now remember how over here we said that these here seem to have the, what is in this one? That it helped that they were fixed widths, that each letter had the same width. So maybe that'll help me. So I'm gonna go back, sorry, I left the filter. So if I go to the filter here, maybe I want sans serif and monospace, which is fixed width, right? Which are also sans serif. Okay, then maybe I want one that's a fixed width, but is also maybe heavy or fat, or I don't mind if it's medium weight or if it's really skinny and thin. And at that point, it's telling me, no, there's none of monospace that are thin. Okay, so then either normal or fat. But see how here I'm getting only choices now that are more adequate instead of every one of the thousands of fonts that are available. Maybe I want one that makes a perfect shape or a zero. So anyway, you have all these different thoughts about what might work. And then I think that this is a good combination. I want a fattish or heavy or bold with the monospaced sans serif. And now I have only these many, that's it. And so now I can choose from one of these, which I would have never been able to select from thousands. So now, I don't know, maybe that one. Oh, these are serif, so I don't want any of those. Deja vu, sans mono. If I pay attention to this sample, the M here is kind of like an M that's shortish. It goes only down to the middle, right? And this is kind of a squarish letter. This one here seemed to have an M that the letter went all the way to the bottom. You might have a third option available to you that you think is good, but look at the different shapes and wonder which one would help you most. Okay, I'm done. I'm gonna just choose one now. So here I have an M that's gonna go all the way to the bottom. The other M's seem to be always stopping in the middle. So if that was important to me, then that tells me that I should go to the bottom. If I didn't care about that, then I can use one of the middle ones. Does that make sense? So you kind of look at the different fonts in their sample. And the best thing is that when you point over them, then look what's happening. This one that I have selected, because I had this one selected when I did this one is changing. So it's letting me look at what that font will look like for real, because this is a tiny little example, but over here I'm seeing, no, I don't want it to be italic, so that's a no. How about this one? It has that kind of cut off M over there. Let's see this one. I can't see the O, which is nice to see. Numero. This one has that M that goes all the way to the bottom, but look, it has like thinner legs for the M and thinner legs. So I think that's not gonna, oh, and the R is kind of curvy. So that's not gonna work. So I'm gonna stick with one of these top ones. And I want a letter that has straighter lines. There, that's the one that has the straightest lines. Look at the R over here. it's a very straight line versus this R, which is like a little curvy line, and I want to really straight. Okay, I've chosen. Boom. That's the one, Liberation Mono. Right, so I'm just showing you one way of making choices. When you know what you want, you can use the filter to make choices and not have to go through so many choices. Now, if you're not sure, you click on the next one and you say, well, let me try, what if I go with a different version? And you can go to the filter again and clear those choices, right? And then you have every option in the world again. And then you can, oh, sorry, select your text and start again to make another set of choices. All right. So I'm going to filter the fonts, and this time I want something that's really funky and decorative and exotic and crazy and whatever. And then I get only those kind of choices, and I chose that. And it's like, ah, I can't even know what that thing is saying. But hey, that's a choice as well. All right. So I am going to stick with the boring old top font. I don't need to make many tests, but if you're not sure, you can test a few more, right? So again, you don't need to use the filters either. If you don't want to use the filters, you need to clear it, because otherwise these are the only ones I'm going to see. I've stopped seeing the normal ones. Okay. So you definitely need to go here and clear that setting. Otherwise you won't see all your fonts. And then you can just do as before, which is scroll up and down until you find something you like. So here I seem to have Blank Gothic Light, which that's kind of cool because that might work, because it's that square one that seemed to have mono spaced anyway. So now I'm going to get rid of the ones that I don't want. So for sure, I don't want this one. For sure, I don't want that one. I can play around with either this one or this one. And I seem to have fallen upon this one, which I didn't expect, but that looks like one of the ones that we used. Yeah. So why not? I'm going to try this one. And this one is Bank Gothic Light VT. So I'm going to use this one because it actually imitates pretty well one of the samples that we have. Now, if you chose a sample like this, which is mono spaced, where each letter has exactly the same space between them, see, and has exactly the same letter size, it's going to be easier to do the one where everything is identical and even. If you chose something like this, so ideally you have at least two different ones to choose. One of the things that you might notice is that not all the spacings between letters are the same, right? So for example, the space between the tip of this R and the tip of this O is probably skinnier than the place that you have between this N and this U. If you were to draw a line right there, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a line, I'm going to put on rulers, Control or Command R, or go to the view and say rulers, show rulers. Why do I want rulers? I don't really care about the size right now, but from the rulers, you can pull out guidelines. So I'm going to put my mouse in this ruler, click and drag out. And if I put a line here across this N and a line here across this U, that spacing there is the one that I'm talking about. So then if I grab this and I were to drag it between the tip of this R, see the bottom here of this R, and between the fattest point of this O, see how there's a different amount of space between those two? Yeah. So that is because, or even if I grab this, I can just grab this one again. I can select it, and like with my selection tool, I can actually select this. I have to be inside of here to select it and move it a little bit and make it go to the fat part of the R. But anyway, this is showing you that this is not an equidistant space, so to say. That's because you need to make letters fit. I'm going to select and get rid of those. You select it and hit the delete key and come here, and you can, why is it not working? When my ruler is not deleting. It's like they're locked or something. Is that the default setting? They should not be locked, but let me go see if my rulers, my guides are locked. Yeah, unlock guides. For some reason, my rulers started locked. So I'm gonna unlock my guide. So now I can select the ruler and move it over a bit. Or I can delete it. Okay, hit the delete key and delete your guides. I just wanted to show you the guides so that you could be aware of what I mean when I'm talking about these spaces being different. And sometimes the word that you wrote really doesn't work for spaces. So some letters are really, really worse off than others. So I'm going to go back to text and say that I write, I'm going to grab this word here, this numero, and I'm going to copy it for a second. And I'm going to write a different word in here. I'm going to write the word world. Can you see how the spacing here looks like it's much less than the spacing here? But it's just that physically these letters are kind of having issues with each other. So if I look at this word, it looks kind of lopsided. Doesn't it look lopsided to you or something? So when a word doesn't look like it's kind of working as it comes out written, and depending on your font, it'll be a different word. But usually when you get these lines and these O's or something that has two O's, like if I were to write, you know, pool or something like that, I'm trying to think of pool, or yeah, that one didn't work as well. I think that the example of world was better. Let me go back to the word world, and because, well, even here, I guess I'll go back to the example of the word world, because I know that that one has some weirdness. Ah, God, I hate to- So there's a way to fix that in text. So you put your mouse and you say, well, I want this to look a little bit more similar. So you can either make more space there, or you could squish these a little bit more together, which make the O and the R look like they're the same distance as the W and the O. So you put your mouse in between those two. In whatever font you chose, it'll be different ones. And then you can head over to the characters. And there's this choice here that if you hover over it, okay, you have like a line in this little icon between the V and the A. Okay. And then here you have one that's showing you all the spaces, and it's two different things. And this is the one that we want. And notice that I can go in here, and this is called kerning. By the way, this is called kerning, and this is called tracking. So I'm going to head over to the kerning, and I'm going to make this bigger. So if 0 is what I have, I'm going to make this space a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go really big, 200, just so you really see the difference. I'm going to hit 200. And see how I made that internal space bigger? It's much bigger, but I wanted you guys to see what I'm talking about. The space between the two letters, that's the kerning. Okay. So then I'm going to go here and I'm going to try, what if I just did a 5 or a 25? And let's see. Oh, okay. So now that space is visually looking better than that it did before. And I had to add kerning in there. Or I'm going to click in here between the L and the D and maybe see if it works to make it a bit smaller. So then I go to -10. And so I'm fixing the spacing so it doesn't look so off. Now, in this case, I think another reason this looks off is because the W is kind of squished. So maybe I want to just work with the width of the W. But anyway, it's looking better now to me than it did at the beginning because I've modified the kerning of the word. So if your word you ended up with has some weird spacings, you can just modify the kerning. Okay. I'm going to put that up there. And I'm going to keep working with this. Actually, I'm going to bring this one back down so you keep that sample. So if you're changing the kerning, that's what's happening. The other thing you can change, on the other hand, is the spacing amongst all the letters. So here, I just wanted the space between these two letters and these two letters to change. But here, maybe I think these letters are too spaced out. So then the entire set is what I want to change. So then that's this one, which is tracking. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and make these be closer to each other, which is up there, or farther from each other down there, closer to each other and farther. So what's changing is that space in between them. So I'm going to go ahead and make these be a little bit closer for this logo. I'm going to make them a lot closer. I'm going to go to -100. Okay. So now from what I arrived, this letter's arrived at that distance right there. And now I'm ending up with them at, so this is how they came in. And now I'm going to go ahead and say, now I want them to be next to each other. Okay. So have you all played around with your kerning and your tracking a bit? When you're making logos, you really need to make it look the way you want it to look. You can't then go in and text and fix it. You know, when you're out of text mode, you're done with these kind of changes. All right. So now I'm ready to turn this into text. So I'm going to, oh, and I had to do more than just numero. I had to do the word uno, right? So I'm going to click right next to that one, hit return, and I'm going to write the word uno as well. So now I have numero and uno. I'm sounding like such an American, numero uno instead of in Spanish, numero uno. Numero uno. All right, so now I'm going to copy that. I'm going to make a new pasteboard, and now I'm truly going to make that logo. So I'm going to make a new artboard by clicking away first, and that gives me access to the artboard. I'm going to add an artboard, exit, and then I'm going to paste that in here. And now this is where I'm going to start. And the way I start is I will change this to create outlines. And there I go. So now these are not text. Over here, I have still text. I can keep playing around with text with those guys. But here I do not have text anymore. These, as you can see, are shapes. Because if I select them again, there's lots of little anchors and paths and stuff. All right, so I'm gonna try to imitate this one. And again, you guys have them in bridge. And so basically I'm reading and I'm seeing that the N, the U has to be under the N. The M is stretched out, and then U and N under the R and O. Now notice that I've put all these together in the same color. It's going to be unreadable, which is kind of like what happened to us here, right? We have two words, and one of the first things that we need to do is see how they play around with color to distinguish that there's still two words and that you should read it like that. Color really helps. I'm going to go ahead and do mine really quickly so that then I can help others with their choices and stuff. But basically, all I need to do now, this is the one I'm going to, I had never found this font before, by the way. This is the first time I found this exact font. So it's kind of exciting because I get to do the exact example. I've never been able to do that because I didn't have this font. So now they must have added this one to them. So I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to put it up under the N. I discover that it's not exactly right. So I'm going to have to put some things a little bit here and there. What's that? Then the N is going to be over there. So basically I'm going to have only the U. The M is going to get big. Anyway, so you guys do your thing. I'm just talking through this one. Oh. These N's and O's. I'm using the white selection key because it helps me more than doing, it helps me more than it would to do the isolation mode. Then I'm going to move this over here. Now, one thing that's important with text is to keep that line, the baseline of text the same. So say that you're moving this one here. See how that one's off by a little bit? That's not going to work. So you need to make sure that these stay the same. And so you can do your best with guides, or you can just use a line later. You can select these two or all four and make sure that they align at the bottom like at the baseline or stuff like that, right? But for now, you can eyeball it. Let me show you a trick. I need to extend these two bottoms of these M's to go down here, right? If I grab one and try to move it to the bottom, and then grab the other one and try to move it to the bottom, I'm probably going to mess up this whole thing. So I'm going to undo that and show you with the Y selection key. You can select, like, group just these two anchor points, or even better, grab all four. So it's these two and those two. So now when I pull down, I am moving the whole thing. Now here, I didn't make a guide to see if this is going to end up in the same spot. So it would be good to pull out a guideline, put it right at the bottom of the U, and one right at the beginning of the N right there. Okay, so how am I pulling these guides out? I said I turn on my rulers, put my mouse in there. And so now I know that I need to make my U here touch the end of that N, right? So that means that if I just try to move this over, that's not going to touch. So that's not going to work. So I'm going to grab all of these points and move them over. Oops, sorry. Let me do that again. Select them all and then reselect only these. Actually, this one as well. Now I can move it over to, I can move it over. I'm using the shortcut for the Mac, or nope. There you go. Just move that over, and that's looking good.
What did you use exactly after you highlighted those, selected them? Did you press any key? What did you
Right.
use to drag it?
Yeah, right now I'm just using my arrow keys.
Yeah.
So when you select an anchor, if you just want to select that anchor, select that guy. If I just want to move it a little bit, I'm using my arrow keys, 1, 2, 3, a tab. So if I select this and I don't want to move it by hand because it's too detailed, I can just click on it and use my arrow keys and go tab, tab, tab. So
Got it.
tab, tab, tab. That's helped to be exact and precise. I'm noticing that this font does have like a little inset to the end,
Yeah.
which might not really work as well. So then if I want to, I could straighten that out. Right now, I'm just gonna go with the big stuff, but see how this N in the end is not the same font probably as the one I had before because it's thinner or fatter. You can modify that and maybe just move this one over and make it be fatter, you know, but then it affects it up there. So you have to kind of affect the whole letter, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, consider that.
Could you drag that little curve in the end? Could you just drag that down and straighten that line out by dragging?
You
right
could,
there?
it's probably easier to turn it into not a curve by double clicking on it and turning it into, sorry, like this one, turning them into straight. Remember that if you double click,
Yeah.
oh, no, it was only if it was made with a curvature tool, which this one was not. So then we have to go over here and instead get rid of these little curved icons with the pen tool. I wasn't going to get into the minutia of this, but I will.
So,
That's okay. No, that's okay. It makes sense. That's the whole point. I'm going to go in here and I'm just grabbing a pen tool and there's a curve here that I don't want. So I'm going to get rid of the ones where the curve started. So by clicking on them with a pen tool, I'm leaving only the ones that are straight lines.
Yeah.
How about that one? So now when I go down a little bit, I'm left with, see how I managed to keep only straight lines?
yeah.
That's because I got rid with my pen tool. hovering over exactly, and you need to approach to do this well, otherwise you'll probably end up messing it up. I'm doing my best without messing it up. It has to be pretty precise. There, and I'm getting rid of, and so now I can grab with my white arrow tool. So you guys be modifying whichever one you're doing your way. But now I have straight lines to play with to modify this shape to make it, have it be the same width as the Uno, right? So
Yeah.
there you go. So now I've modified this N and it doesn't have those little curvy lines anymore. And the ends of it down here and down here are the same as the U. But if
Yeah.
you're not sure, you got to draw lines, guides, and see it's not exactly the right size. So now I gotta move this over, et cetera, et cetera. So you play around with that kind of stuff until you have it exactly right. Let me command minus. Let me do the rest of these a little bit quicker. I'm not going to modify the rest of the letters so that I can help others. I want to make sure that I'm available to give you guys a hand. It's not just about me making my own. Let me go back to the M's. And get those. Stretch out. And then I think Ero all came over. I'm just going to eyeball it a little bit now because I'm gonna get rid of this N because it's the one that's not modified. I'm going to copy this one. And now bring that one here. Guideline at the bottom ending. Oh, here I needed the O, the U again. U. And then we got rid of this O. And then here, I'm gonna approach the O. And again, select this whole bottom of this O and then just drag it down. So that it now says numero uno. So that's one of the examples that we had there. But the thing that's missing, which makes it hard to read, is the colors, right? So if I now select all of the ones that are in M plus E plus R, and hold on the shift key, and E, or I'm holding down the shift key and give them one color. So maybe these are the light green. And then I'll go and shift to the U and O. And these are the blue. Something like that. Okay. I'm going to hide those guides so that they don't bug me anymore. Guides, I'm going to hide them. And then there you go. Okay. So anyway, I'm sure there's lots of, I mean, you can go in there, be more detailed, but that's kind of, we modified a font, took away some of its curves. I can see there's actually an angle there that I should fix. Go ahead and share with me yours, see what you're doing and see if you have questions and I can help you through your process because yours might look different because you started with a different font, you know, so now it's just more of a lot of different. Okay, no one seems to be speaking up. Someone wants to share or ask or question. I'll stop my share. Hard. We'll let you work hard on it for a little bit and then. So Emma, so they've decided, okay, so I've got some good news. I just got a text from Emma. They're not going to cancel the Summer 2 Illustrator class. In case anyone's interested in continuing to learn more about Illustrator, they're going to reschedule it. But the request is that I should make sure to talk to people who are already registered to find a spot that works for them. But anyway, they decided not to cancel it. I said, no, don't cancel it. Let's just move it. So I'll tell you when, but yeah. We need to have it be at a time that kind of works. So if you tell me what works for you, we can make it work if someone wants to learn some more. I work with, there's so much to learn in all these programs that each time I teach it, I don't teach the same exact thing. I just find a different example, a different idea to keep teaching you other skills and you move forward, right? It's not like I'll give you the same thing each time at all. The first class is a bit basic and similar, but the rest all change. All right, anything there yet?
Hey, Deanna, I'm gonna
Yes.
fess up. I lost the sample when I got it from Bridge. I thought I had it open in Illustrator.
Go ahead and share your screen and I'll help you. I'm sure there's stuff happening out there that someone, I'm glad that you want to open up, and it's all about confess. I'm expecting this, misadventures, and I want to help you. So, all right. So this is, it doesn't look lost. It looks like it's there, or what are you saying? It looks fine.
No, the sample you had in Bridge.
Oh, what I can do is, why don't I put in my share, I just put the sample so you guys can see it. Which one are you trying to see? I can put both open. I think I can open both at a time, maybe not.
No, I just don't know where it went.
Well, if you go to Bridge, go to Bridge and I'll help you find it. It's down there at the bottom row.
Right
You
here.
have those two. Yeah.
Right.
So if you
Right.
open them up, like double click, it'll open an Illustrator. And then go back and open the other one. And then you just have them as another file in Illustrator. I'm seeing that you have a lot of open files in Illustrator already, which just be aware that
Oh, you mean
that
these?
they're all,
Yeah.
yeah. Just make sure that they're all saved, just so that, if something crashes, that you don't lose them. I know that you have a few different ones. So, yeah.
Okay.
Now, go back for a second to the one that had pink around it, the one down, one to the left. That one, yeah, that one. Okay, see guys, what's happening here to her? This is really important because this might have happened to you or not. She didn't make those pink boxes and they weren't there in my example. But what this means is Illustrator is telling you, I don't have this font. But notice that that's a problem in the top because the top is still font, but the bottom has been turned into outline. So the bottom doesn't care because it's not font anymore. But the top, it's saying, sorry, I don't have this font. So see how it's changing it to some generic font. See how that type of font that's upstairs, fronted by pink, does not look like that big square font that we have in the bottom?
Yeah.
So Illustrator or InDesign or Photoshop, when your computer doesn't have the font it needs to display it, it changes the font to something else. And that works on top because your computer, Vera, doesn't have whatever this font is. But under the line, that one has already been turned into outlines and shape. And that's why you want a logo never to be a font, because it'll look different in people's computers if they don't have the fonts. That's why a logo has to be art, basically, shapes like the one underneath. Okay. So anyway, I was just trying to show you why that pink is happening in case it's happening to anyone else. It's because when you open it, it's like, oh, I don't have this font, sorry. And it's turning it into some generic. If you click in there with your type tool, it'll probably tell you what, go to the type tool and click into that font and then click in there. And if you look on the right, it's turned it into, I don't know, I can't read well, something bold. Look to the right to your font names. Oberon bold or something.
Okay. It said bold,
Oh, yeah, Oberon bold, but look, it has a little asterisk at the end of the name, see? And
Mhm.
that means I'm just kind of replacing it because I don't have it, so it's like, okay, that's what I'm
is this
using,
a
but-
point where I would find out the name of the font and buy it or borrow it? How do you? get the
Yeah,
font?
if you really need a font that you need desperately, let me stop and share. Let me stop your share and let me share a little bit more. Within the Adobe products and within your account that you pay for, if you pay for it or school one, there's a whole bunch of fonts that Illustrator offers. So this isn't font anymore, right? But let me head back to over this sample, I guess. See, mine doesn't have that weird pink around it. If I click into it, it's telling me that this is Orbitron bold over there, right? But mine doesn't have an asterisk there. So that means that I do have access to this font when you did not. So when I click on this, notice that one thing that's telling me this Orbitron bold is coming up from the cloud. So you might have access to it if you go look for it on the cloud, if your account. So I can go over here to where it says find more. And find more is activate Adobe fonts. This doesn't work too well for VDI, but you have your own application. So when you do that, see how it's taking a long time, but anyway, it does take some time. But once this is set up and working, then you can search through all of Adobe's fonts, which are all, so to say, free for you to use because you're paying already. It's not that they're free, but as part of that thing that you're paying for monthly, you get access. Those here they are. They worked. And so now this is bazillions of fonts over here, right? And you can look to see, and you can click in here and you can look under the O. So see, they're all up in the cloud, and I can scroll all the way to the O, right? And then go and look and see ABCD, O, B, Orbitron, and look and see if Orbitron is a font that is available to you here. And if so, you have to activate it from here. So you can just click on this thing to activate it. So I'm going to go over here and there it is, Orbitron. And if you like it, you can download this over here. Like it's got 4 versions of it. It's got light, medium, bold, black. If you want to download all of them, then you download all of them. If all you want is the black one, then you click over here. So right now I have this one activated, the bold, but I don't have the others activated. So if I want more, I would have to click here on activate, and that would come down into my computer and I can use it. Were you able to find Orbitron available?
I did. I was watching you. I didn't try it myself.
Okay, so I'm going to stop my share
Oh.
and you go ahead and do it. Share your screen and then I'll walk you through that. So hopefully everyone saw that because this is a different, it works. I forgot to tell everyone to pay attention because I know that you're all doing your thing, but this was I wanted to show you how to. So go ahead and share your screen again. So I see Sam and Megan have posted in the Padlet some sample. Let me give you the Padlet link again in the chat so that you guys can be posting the work that you're doing. Okay, so let's go and see if we can find that Orbitron font, right? So go ahead and go to find more. click on the word find more up above.
Yeah, I did. And then here's a little cloud with the check mark on it.
Font activation has been disabled by your IT administrator. Are you in VDI or in your
Yes,
own?
this one is VDI because I,
That's interesting because it let me activate mine, even though it's not letting me activate yours. So you know why? Because my pipeline account is also an account that's a teacher account. So I probably have more fonts than you as a student. So that's interesting. So you won't be able on VDI to activate more text. But if you go
Okay.
to your real Illustrator that you did install, you should be able to activate the rest of the fonts.
okay, I bought that college buys one, and I haven't.
You haven't installed it
fully
yet.
activated just yet, so I will try that after class.
Okay, all right. So anyone else so meanwhile, keep working on your text and stuff. You can use other words. You don't need to use numero uno. Go and use other words. Maybe you have a business name. Maybe you have, I don't know. Did you want to share with me your logo, Christian?
I posted it on Padlet, the thing that I did
Oh,
with image trace.
okay. Oh, there
And-
you go. I see it. Let me share screen so that I can show people what you're showing. You guys keep working, but if you keep an eye on what I'm doing, I see here Christian has.
Yeah, there it is.
There it is,
So-
production works.
That is the PMG up top, and that's after I did the image trace. And I just did a really quick one, so you can see that it didn't really come out. I have to work with that. more.
Well, here's the thing. Image trace is good for the
Yeah.
logo part. So guys, look, this is the PNG, which is like a raster version of it, right? So the circle isn't going to be perfect. Things aren't going to be exact, but still it's showing up really square and nice. When she did an image trace, which we haven't really done work on image trace here in class yet, we're going to work more on it next week. She ended up with her font looking a little bit rounded out,
Yeah.
see? Roundish and softish, and see, like
Exactly.
at this little thingy that's there on the K, but it's really good. But see, the S is a little bit deformed. It's a bit deformed, but it's
looks
pretty
funky.
good.
Yeah.
Now, you can either play around with the settings on image trace a little bit more until you find something that's exact, or you can relax and go, that's okay. Because now with this, you can find a font that's identical
Exactly.
and retype it. And now you know how to retype it with, you know, even if you put the exact font, it might not have the exact spacing, because
Yeah.
see how the R is very near, the O has more space, but now with, you know, letting, with kerning and tracking, you can make yours work exactly the same as this one. And
Yeah.
then these are very easy. You recreate the 3 circles yourself.
Yeah.
And you overlap them, and then you turn everything at the end into outlines, and then it's just, you know, graphics like you
basic
do,
font.
like, yeah, like you don't want to leave it in fonts because you already saw what happens if people don't have
Yeah.
the font, but you want to first match the font as much as you can first, and then and try to reproduce it as much as you can. If you really can't, then you modify the letter to be exactly right. There's some cool, I have a font, I have an app on my phone that's called What the Font, which
Uh-huh.
I like, which you can use your phone to point to something, and it does the best to match it to an existing font. There should be something online kind of like that you could post your PNG and it could try to read and see if it can
Yeah.
find the original font that was used. Who designed this originally? Someone
Well, we
did it.
designed it, and we had, and a designer created it for us
Created it.
many like decades ago.
Yeah,
And then we've simplified it since. But if you look closely at, I say many decades, it was probably like 20 years ago, 15,
yeah,
20
well,
years ago.
yes,
Um,
yeah,
But there's a little dot, because my husband just took a screenshot of
That
what we
one?
have. See that little dot? And
Yeah.
that's all I need to do is get rid of that.
yeah, that's very
And then,
easy.
And
And then this line there too, there's a line there.
exactly, because he took a screenshot of it. It was like already. And so, and then whenever we gave this logo to And you can see that I moved the word around. It's not the same spacing or anything like
Yeah,
that. It was
okay,
just a
yeah.
really quick thing. Because it gave it to me in 2 files, just
Yeah.
the names and then just the word. But whenever we would give it to a printer to have our letterhead printed or whatever, they would work with it, the
Mhm.
file that we gave them. So we never
Yeah.
had, like, the vector file disappeared long ago when we talked about that.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
especially if you make it small, it's
Yeah.
clear enough text that actually works. You'll notice when you do vectorize it though,
Yeah.
and then you print it again and you look at the both, you might notice that there's a difference. That
Yeah.
said, if this is, you know, a clean line, it might not become a problem by not you don't have this on transparency though.
No.
So then if you wanted to put the, say, on top of the sandy beach to say
Yeah.
production books in Santa Barbara, you can't. You
And
need
that's
to,
what we want to do.
you need to empty it out. And when you do that, then you'll start to see the pixelation, right? So that's where you
Exactly.
want to reproduce it in vector so that you can get the same thing.
And we will be doing that with, he's going to send me one of our previous little postcards, digital postcards that we would send out with image on it, like a beach, actually, a beach, and, you know, just to get clients interested in shooting at various locations.
I'm using my phone, which has this app called What the Font. I don't know if it
Okay.
works. I don't know if it works on screens. And I'm pointing to it. And let's see what it says or see if it discovers. It's hard on a screen. Yeah.
And I have we've had tents printed, like big, easy up tents. The tent covers. We've had this printed on so many various things, on tablecloths, for
Yeah,
set.
different.
I have no idea what file they used to print that stuff.
Well, it shouldn't be too hard to match because it's not a crazy different,
No,
but
it's
it does have a little stylized R here. It's
Yeah.
a little bit different. It's got, round, these are not perfectly round. They're like a little
Yeah.
oval. So, there's things that make it, the S kind of comes all the way down. There's things about it, like the K starts from this letter starts from there. So if you start paying attention to different fonts and pay attention to see the T you just look at enough fonts, you'll find relatively quickly one that matches enough that you have maybe 80% the same. And then with Illustrator, you can kind of reset it. What you want is not necessarily to get the font. It would be nice because then you can do other stuff with that font. But mainly what you want is at the very least have your logo be vectored.
Yeah.
And so something that's near enough would be good. So yeah, let me see. I'll just download this for a second. And then I just downloaded it, but I don't have it in my, I'm gonna quickly put it up for a second in the Illustrator class file so that I can access it.
How do you use the
I was just trying to use it, but it didn't seem to work on the screen. But also I'm trying to Skylar. Skylar. Let me see if I created a file. So create. Let me see if I place your screen. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna mute myself because someone's coming in.
And then how do you easily just delete these guides, the guidelines? I think you're muted. Deanna?
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
My son was walking in and the dog was barking, so I
Oh,
muted
okay.
myself, but then I kept talking. So, yeah, so when you have guides that you want to, you can either not completely delete them, but hide them, which is what I did.
Yeah.
Because later I can still use them, or you can, let me show them again. So over here, I can show guides or delete
Okay.
guides. But you can also then, when you don't want it anymore, you can select it like that and hit the delete key. It
Okay,
goes away.
that's what I was trying and it was not working.
But they need to be unlocked. Make sure that when you go to view guides, that your guides are unlocked. They
Got
came
it.
out automatically as guides. When you unlock them, then you can delete them.
Okay.
Lisa, your hand is up.
Yes, hi.
Yes.
I had to take a phone call and I did kind of hear it in the distance that my numero uno is highlighted in pink.
Okay, so that's because you don't have the font.
Because
But-
it says it's the font. It says it's the
Or Orbitron, yeah, but what it
right,
means
but it's
is
got an
that,
asterisk after it.
yeah, it means that your computer does not have it. Right, so it's modifying it to something that it does have and it does recognize.
So my question is that pink then just like for my notification, or would it actually
Yes.
print with that pink?
No, it wouldn't, and it would tell you that there's error, and it wouldn't print with that pink. It would just print with that font that you have that it's showing you, which is not the same font. You're aware that it's not the same font, right?
Well, it says it's the same font, you know, in the
No,
title of the font,
go
but
ahead,
then
go
it's got
ahead.
an asterisk next
Go
to
ahead,
it.
share your screen and I'll show you. I can't, since mine shows it, I can't do it. I can't share that on mine. Yeah, that's what I was showing Vera, but I'll go ahead and share your screen and I'll share it and I'll show you again. So guys, we're gonna go 5 more minutes.
Okay, Deanna, I got what the font and took a picture of it, but then what do you do for it to identify which font?
I haven't used it for so long and it's changed versions, but let me see. Let me open. So I'm waiting for Lisa first to share your screen.
I don't know why all of a sudden it's not responding. I can't seem to ever share my screen with you.
Mine is not sharing, right? No, it's not. Okay. So let me,
It just says that Windows application is not responding. This happened to me 2 weeks ago when I tried to share my screen. Yeah, and now it's the Zoom meeting isn't responding, so it's probably gonna tap me out of this one on my computer. Because I have the option to either close it or wait for it to respond.
yeah, I'm not, it used to be that it would look, I have an old version of it. Take a picture.
I can find a tutorial on it. Once you get it, it's in the computer. You could use it with Photoshop or another Adobe program.
It does say that?
No,
Okay.
I'm asking you.
I don't know. It basically, it gives you the name of your font. That's
Okay,
what it does. Or it tries to find the name of your font. I think there's an Adobe app that does that too. I don't know, Lisa.
Yeah,
know
that's okay.
what?
I'll figure it out. It
You
won't
know what?
share it. Now my whole screen's just white.
You know what, Vera, can you share your screen for a second? Because your example is the question that Lisa has and she can't share her screen. And Vera just had that happen to her. So I'm going to show you, Lisa, what to do based
Okay,
on
thank you.
Vera's, because I just explained the same thing to her. Can you go back to, okay, so here's her numero uno. See? And it's pink, it's covered in pink, right? But the thing that you need to understand, especially with a font that's so different, it's easy to tell, but you might not notice, is that this font that you're seeing up there is not the shape of the font Orbitron. Okay? Illustrator replaced it with a generic shape And it's telling you that it replaced it because it's painting it pink in the background. But the real font, Orbitron, looks like that thing underneath. So see how the U is not square, the M is not square. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, yes, yes, yes.
It shows you something, but it's a replacement and it's warning you, hey, this is not what the font looks like. The font you want is called Orbitron. It puts a little asterisk and it goes, but I'm showing you something just so you see the words, but this is not what the font looks like at all. And you can look at the font underneath. That's what that
Yeah.
font looks like.
Yeah,
And
it's,
so
yeah,
I'll-
definitely different.
it doesn't put nothing, but it puts a fill-in replacement font and it wants you to know that it's not the right font by painting it pink. But if you were to print this, it would print with this fake text, but it would not print pink underneath, but it would not be the text that you want either, right? It would just be this
Right.
replacement font. Okay,
Okay,
you're welcome. All right, guys, I'm gonna, as I said, we're closing 15 minutes early, which is right now.
Have a
So-
great time and find it, take a picture for us.
Thank you, I will. We're gonna be
Laugh
definitely
a
taking.
lot.
What's that?
Laugh a lot.
I hope we can laugh a lot, yeah.
Okay.
So have fun, you guys. Keep playing around and posting. I'll look into what's up with the font and how to use it, because it's been a while since I've used it. And meanwhile, just try to match it using what I showed you, the Adobe stuff, for those of you who have it purchased, okay? I know that those of you who have VDI won't be able to do it, but for those of you who have it purchased, you can use that. All right.
Thank you.
There's, sure, you can go to a website online where you upload your PNG and say, what's this font, and have them recognize it. There's quite a few apps that do that. So
Yeah.
try that. All right. See you
Bye.
guys.
Have
Bye.
have fun.
Thank you.
Bye. Have lots of fun.
Thank you.